Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 290 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. And not only that, welcome to the final episode from this studio. You will not see the outdoors anymore when you watch GameFace. I really like this studio, but unfortunately we're moving out, and Matt got some intel on what's going on here. Like, I thought they were selling the building and some other company was moving in, but you were just told the truth, right?
Yeah, the tech building across the street bought the place, and they are knocking the building down to build a parking lot, apparently.
Yeah, this whole building, and it's gigantic, is getting leveled.
And it's old. Like this.
It is old. It's a also
venerable radio building.
Yeah, it's a classic building from like the ancient history of Hollywood.
Yeah,
and they're leveling it.
Although
to build
Europeans will laugh at that,
right?
But like,
right.
This building is the way it was 50 years ago.
It's our office
impossible. No one was alive then, as Eddie Izzard would say.
Yeah, they're building like a huge like apartment entertainment complex right across the street, and it is gigantic.
Oh yeah,
it is 3 huge buildings, and each one of them are like 12 or 13 stories high, and they're just using.
It's going to create so much content.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna level this to build a parking lot for that big building. So yeah, it sucks. But anyway, this is our last episode. It's going to be a good one, though, because we have a gigantic game to talk about today. Yeah. Gigantic.
Listev had given away subs.
Oh.
Congratulations to him for getting his company in blackenterprise.com for quintupling its revenue, LS Cream, or Cream LS.
And that's all because of us, because we promoted his liquor. And now he has quintupled his sales in a year, right?
Yeah.
That is amazing, man. Congratulations. I'm going to use your real name for this, Steve. Congratulations, man. That is amazing. Also, congrats on getting the feature on the website. Matt sent that to me last night, and just a big smile spread across my face to see how successful your liquor is becoming. So, amazing job, amazing work, a lot of hard work to get
And actually, I got sent that because of someone I let try it.
Oh, really?
Saying like, hey, what was the name of that cream liquor? Yeah, I was like, oh, and like they sent me that link. There's like,
no way.
There he is.
They connected the dots.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great, man. Really good to hear that. We do have a big show today. Well, we have one gigantic game. We're going to kick off the show with Horizon Forbidden West. Matt and I have both been feverishly playing it as much as humanly possible over the last week or so. I think we're both pretty confident we can deliver some good impressions to you guys on that. Another note. I asked you guys last week if you were okay with Good Morning Gaming going day and date live to our YouTube audience. No objections. You guys were all unanimous in saying, yes, absolutely do it. So this is a big moment for us. We have never had a single show, piece of content, whatever, be free. So this is a big paradigm shift for us. It took 5 years for us to do this on our Patreon to finally come up with a show that you guys were okay with us sharing with everyone else for free, in hopes that our Patreon will grow and our social media following will grow, which are all is good for you guys because that means more revenue for us and it means more content for you guys. This is not, I just want you guys to know, this is not something that's going to keep happening. When we have another show that we launch, it's not going to be free. This is kind of the one sample that we're going to give out to our YouTube audience. It's a little hard right now because we're like 4 episodes behind, and like, do I just not publish those episodes on YouTube? Because when you do that, it's so funny on YouTube. You can see when you do things, you lose followers. So for us anyway, if we publish a lot of stuff in a short period of time, we lose followers. It's very bizarre because a lot of people have reached out to us on YouTube and said, you should separate all your shows. There should be a YouTube channel for Pactor Factor. There should be a YouTube channel for GameFace. They want a separate channel for every show, and like, nobody does it that way. But I can see that when we publish a lot of stuff in one day on our YouTube channel, we lose followers on YouTube. It is
because it pops in the feed too much, and they're
like,
it's spam.
It's annoying. Spam.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, get over it.
It's very weird.
I just can't understand people anymore, Matt. I'll just be honest with you. Like, the way people act, like how angry people get, how quick people are to just jump on people anymore. Like, I've been on the internet professionally for 20-some years. It's never been like this. Everybody is just like, that's not what I want. Like,
there are like people like my niece and people her age that I've seen that they get mad if they get an ad online that's for something they already have.
Yeah.
They're like it should just know that you already own this thing or whatever. It's
well,
very
the irony
weird.
is that they want Google snooping on them.
Right.
Whereas people like us are like, oh my God, I searched for this and now all I see is ads for this on every website I go to. And we're mad about it. And you're saying their perspective is like, I want more of that.
Yep.
Interesting.
There is no concept of privacy for the younger you go.
Yeah.
There's like, no, snoop on me and customize everything for what I want. And it's hilarious to me because I was an adult when the internet really blew up. You know, we were in our 20s really.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was just like, oh, don't tell anyone what your real name is. Don't tell anyone where you are. Don't give them any information.
Don't tell them who you're married to.
No,
don't. Yeah.
Like the age, sex, location in a chat room was like, oh, you're living dangerously, basically.
Yeah.
And now it's like, just put everything on your Twitter bio about who you are, where you are, what you do, everyone you know, and everything that upsets you.
And your phone number and your cash
and
app
your email and your the things connected to your bank. It's just a completely different thing. Like it
really is.
And at that point, I guess who cares?
It's just
who's snooping on you.
Someone who's running a business that relies on these people. It's so frustrating. If like you do one thing, it makes a certain segment of that group happy, and then pisses off another segment. Like it feels like there's no universal truth anymore online. Like
there isn't.
There's nothing that you can do that is always going to work to the good for you.
The universal truth is what you think at the time for yourself at like whatever makes you feel good. Like that happens all the time. And like and if you're not, and if someone disagrees with you, if someone's like, actually I think it's more like this, you're gaslighting them.
Right. It's
or some other psychological term that doesn't actually mean what Tumblr and TikTok and Twitter use it to mean, but like is used to protect yourself from ever having to think critically about yourself.
Yeah, and don't think this is like a rant against cancel culture. I don't know. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't believe there is such a thing as cancel culture. I call cancel culture accountability culture.
Yeah,
so that's not what I'm talking about
someone
here.
Is not
like,
canceling. This is like
don't like peg me with Joe Rogan or some crap. Like that's not what I'm getting at here. It's just hard to run a business when you're relying on people who have no consensus in how they feel about things. It's
that's why you just got to do what you think is right for your thing,
which is what I've done,
and that's that.
Yeah. So we're not launching a new YouTube channel for Good Morning Gaming.
Yeah. I've seen stuff where I've seen stuff where like if you have a radical change in format, you launch another like there's a channel I follow called Toy Galaxy that does basically like really well produced like man sitting in a chair doing like a rundown of a history of an old toy, like, and it's very thorough, very well researched, very well produced, extremely well done. But they also do they started doing videos where he plays games or like he talks about his favorite toys or like shows like new toys he got, and it's different enough in production value from the normal stuff that they started a separate channel for them. So if you want to see that stuff, you can watch.
I could probably understand that.
That makes sense. But everything that you put out for Sifted is essentially the same kind of thing.
It's all game related.
It's all game related. It's all essentially the same level of production value.
Yeah.
Except for the one where we talk for 3 hours. That's maybe a little but they're all very, very highly produced in general. And like, I don't think if you're into Pact or Factor, I don't know why you wouldn't be at least moderately interested in the other stuff.
Yeah, I don't either.
And look, if you're not, you can just easily skip it. I follow board game channels that post like 9 things a day.
Yeah.
And it's just like no one's interested in everything about board. There's such a diverse. Topic.
Obviously there are YouTube channels. IGN publishes dozens of things every day, and it runs the gamut. And look, if we were ever to branch out and do more like entertainment-based content, like movie or TV show stuff, like we would probably launch a new YouTube channel for that and it would be called Sifted Entertainment or whatever, because right now our YouTube channel is Sifted Games. So as long as we stick to games, that's what's going to appear on our YouTube channel. Hopefully most of you guys are cool with that. It has been frustrating though, watching. You think the more you post, the better you're going to do, because you're like, I'm giving away all this free content to these people, and instead they're like, F you. It's so weird. But anyway, we're just doing the best we can here. So I think that's it for the housekeeping for now. I think we're ready to kick off the show, and we're going to kick things off with the biggest release maybe of the year, or at least maybe until Friday. Literally, it could be that close. And that game is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon Forbidden West.
What? Forbidden West, yeah. Yeah,
because Zero Dawn was the first game.
one. Yeah,
which I never noticed before. There's a 1 in that in the first game's logo,
and now there's a little 2 in this logo. Yeah, I didn't notice it either until. And then the reason
they hoped, I guess.
The reason I said Zero Dawn is because they reference Zero Dawn.
Yeah, Project Zero Dawn is obviously the foundation of the lore. Yeah,
of the story in the game, so to speak. And I've heard it dozens of times in the last like 4 or 5 days, and it was just kind of like a Freudian slip. But Horizon Forbidden West.
Well, I keep calling it Horizon 2, which also is not accurate. But it's easier to.
It does have the 2 in that logo hidden in there.
It does, but they don't officially call it that.
Yeah. It is a PlayStation exclusive for now. Eventually, it'll probably come to PC.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Most PlayStation exclusives do.
I would consider finally upgrading my PC to see what this thing looks like a year from now.
Man. Well, okay, so we have a huge discussion plan for this game. So get yourself a drink, put your feet up. We're going to really dive into this game. And I do have a structure, Matt, that hopefully we can kind of follow. We'll see how it goes. And I want to start talking about the story. It is an action RPG. Stories are very important. Character development is very important. And this game takes place 6 months after the end of Zero Dawn. And Aloy has been kind of MIA. She saved the world and all these people.
And then she saved Meridian.
Right. Well, she's a hero.
Yeah.
But she disappeared. So everyone's like, she saved us, and she's been gone for 6 months.
She vanished from her own celebration party, basically.
Right. Yeah. And so as this game begins, she's reappearing. She's finally appeared to these people who have been wondering where she has been for 6 months.
Well, really, Varl caught up to her.
That's true, actually. He tracked her, right?
Yeah, he found her. And she ends up having to go back to Meridian for basically political purposes.
Yep.
Because she finds out she's looking for a backup of Gaia because Gaia destroyed herself. The main AI that was supposed to save the world. The premise of the first game is basically that a mysterious signal was sent to Gaia, which activated Hades and corrupted all the other subordinate AIs and started sending everything to hell. And Gaia, to save herself, destroyed herself right after she created a clone of the woman who created Gaia, who is Aloy. So Aloy's a clone of Elizabeth Sobek, who was the
head of the program.
The head of the program of Zero Dawn, and Zero Dawn. One thing I do love about the backstory in this series is whoever wrote these games did their science homework. Like, a lot of it is very plausible, right down to the time it would take the machines to engulf the Earth the way they do. Like, that's pretty accurate considering like how the methodology they're using. And the great thing is that unfolds over the course of the first game is like, you expect, there was a post-apocalyptic thing, and obviously something happened, and people survived somehow, and then you find out like, oh no, they didn't. Like, the plan was literally, we're going to let the world end and build a thing that repopulates it and fixes it later.
Right.
And the issue is that that's a very complicated thing, and it didn't go right, and no one really knows why it didn't go right. But Aloy stopped Hades, which is the bad AI Hades was the AI that was supposed to basically wipe the slate if something went wrong, and it went berserk, and she had to stop it at the end.
Well, then there was Silence, who was kind of meddling in the whole thing. And
Silence was her mysterious mentor / antagonist / guy who knows more than everyone else. And the post-credit scene on the first one is that Hades broadcasts something. Hades is red, so it's bad. And it broadcasts something out from the tower in Meridian, and it goes into this little lantern Silence is carrying, and you're like, oh, what's Silence up to? And you find out in this game what he is up to.
Yeah. And so 6 months later, and the one sentence where you kind of gave the synopsis, like, I think for most people, they have no idea what you're talking about. But when you've been playing the game, you know what you're talking about, and it makes sense. But essentially, Gaia is a program that was built to save the Earth environmentally,
bearing a striking resemblance to Gaia from Captain Planet.
Yeah,
I have to say.
Actually,
because that was Whoopi Goldberg in Captain Planet, and she looks very much like, not like she doesn't look like Whoopi Goldberg, but she does have the same sort of black woman with her hair up in a flowing robe sort of thing going on.
Yep.
The
story is complicated in this game.
Yeah, there's a lot happening there, but
essentially there's an AI that was created to save the world.
Yeah, and Aloy's looking for a copy of it,
right? So that she can
reboot it, because otherwise the biosphere is basically going to collapse.
Because what's happened is Gaia failed; it exploded, basically destroyed itself, and now the world is being taken over by this corruption, essentially. Yeah. That's killing all the wildlife, and the robots are taking over, because weren't the robots also trained to eat the corrupted material?
Yeah, the machines are actually supposed to be helpful. They're supposed to be terraformers, and but they have been corrupted by Hades, and then Hades did something to Hephaestus, which is the AI that builds the machines. So Hephaestus has been churning out deranged machines for like 20 years, which has very much changed how people live. And also all this happened largely because the tech billionaire Ted Faro, the Pharaoh of old, whose fault it was that the world was ending. He's the one who created the Grey Goose scenario where the machines were basically going to consume all organic matter on the planet. He couldn't stand the idea that everyone in the future would know that he did all this, so he killed everyone who was supposed to run the project and ran off and lived by and purged Apollo, which was the AI segment that contained all human knowledge. So the reason everybody in Horizon is living in sort of an uninformed
anti-technological state,
basically a more natural state, is because the
all knowledge was wiped away.
All knowledge is gone. The education basically. The AIs were able to clone people and raise them and then boot them out into the world when they ran out of food, but they didn't have any education for them. Like they basically are like, all human knowledge is gone, so we don't know what to tell you what to do. All we can say is go out there and don't die. And so that's what happened. Everybody formed different tribes, and everybody kind of like formed weird spiritual beliefs. Like one of my favorite things about this series is how Aloy understands what technology is and what the AIs are, and everyone else thinks it's all gods and spirits and stuff, and she's constantly just like, yeah, sure, I gotta go wake the spirit up in the magic cave, just tell me where it is. It's
some of the stuff though, like that she says, like I do wonder where it came from, like some of her comments about the old world and the old ones, which is us. Some of the stuff that she says, I'm like, where did you get that? And some of the vernacular she uses, I'm like, where'd you pick up those words?
Well, a lot of it she gets from the Focus. Like the Focus teaches her how to read, teaches her the names,
which is her little Google Glass, basically.
Which she found a bunch more of them between games, so now she can
hand
them out to people.
Hands them out like candy to her friends.
Like people's like, oh, got a new one, because in the first game it was like seeing another person with a focus was like a big moment.
It was a revelation.
Now she has a whole bag of them, which is handy because then like your allies can talk to you like through
I mean it's a typical earpiece,
finger
up to the
stuff,
earpiece moment in all
But
games.
It's also fun to see her like kind of finally teach her friends what the real situation is, and they're all sort of like, oh damn. It's like it's a good change. It's a little hand wavy, but actually I think it improves things enough that I don't care.
Yeah, I think the cost benefit analysis for it
it's absolutely
out.
worth fudging that to get
I agree.
the benefits of it.
Yep. How do you like how they tell the story in this game, Matt?
They
had like their Naughty Dog moment at the beginning where they have the song that plays and the emotional.
Well, by beginning you mean like
5 hours in.
Yeah, it's like I saw people complaining about how long the prologue is in this game, and I'm like, you know what? I thought I knew what you're complaining about, but then I realized maybe I wasn't out of what you were considering the prologue, because you could consider the prologue to this game 5 hours, and then like, oh, it takes forever to get out in the open world, and I'm like, well, I'm out in the open world, and then I realized like, no, I wasn't. I was in an open area, but I wasn't in the open world until like 10 hours.
Right.
In.
Yeah.
Like it's a slow unfolding.
This game is gigantic, by the way.
Yeah.
It is a huge, huge beast.
Like I think somewhere around 20 hours, I got to the point in the story. I'm like, oh, this is the story. Okay, this is what we're doing.
That's
okay.
a long ways in before you really figure out what the story is. Because a lot of the beginning part of the game is just tying up the loose ends from the first game in a lot of ways.
There's
like
a lot
what
of that.
happened here?
And there's some of that is like sort of, okay, we did get to make a sequel, so we kind of got to position stuff to go forward forever.
Yeah,
that's true. You can see them laying the groundwork for like, if we need to keep doing this. And there is at the very, very beginning of the game, there's a thing that happens where I'm like, oh, is this where you're going with this? And it is. And it's like, which is actually something I thought of when I played the first game that I thought would be cool. And they actually did it, which I thought was neat.
You're a psychic. So back to what I was saying. How do you like how the story is told in this game? One of our biggest complaints about the first game was the facial animation.
Oh, I think they've revolutionized that.
It's insane.
This is some of the best like character acting I've ever seen. Like, and I think that might be partly from working with Kojima with Death Stranding. And
Matt, actually, let's rewind just a second. One of the big complaints people had, and a lot of the reviews docked the game for this, was facial animation issues where Aloy's eyeballs would go crazy. Or
in the first game or this one?
This one. And characters would just look awkward or whatever. I've had none of that.
I haven't seen anything like that.
None of it.
No.
And look, again, they've put up footage that backs up what they're saying.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it. I have had one bug in this game.
I had to crash.
Well, I've got a couple things where like the monsters fall and they wiggle because they land on a weird rock, or she has trouble jumping across certain like gaps without falling weird and stuff. But I've only had one serious bug, and that is there's one of the desert dweller, the desert Tanakh places, shifting sands, or like the big one. The one that it has the melee pit, the fighting training thing. Every time I say goodbye to that guy, the game crashes.
I had it crash there too.
Yeah, and I did it twice, and it does it every time.
I had it crash there too. Yeah. Yep, same deal for me. That's the only crash I've had.
The only serious problem.
So stay away from the pit fighting until they issue a patch.
Or at least, I mean, it does autosave. Like it saved all the stuff I did. It just.
And then when I came back, I was standing right next to the pit.
Yeah, there's no loss of time.
That is funny that we both had the same crash.
I think that's an actual established bug in the game. It is.
I also think that is the first time that has ever happened.
We both have the same
almost 300 episodes of GameFace that we both had the same crash bug. Like ever. It never happens.
I have seen no like in cutscene glitches or bugs.
The faces.
Like I mean, who knows what people were getting on their the review build?
Yeah.
Like the day one patches make a big difference.
It made a big difference apparently for this one. I've had no bugs whatsoever. I had Aloy get kind of stuck between like a rock and a wall one time.
I have a couple things like that, but it's like nothing outside of the usual.
It autosaves like every
stuff.
50 yards. Like it's not a big deal, and then you can manual save whenever you want to. You can quick save at the fires.
Like I have issues still with the climbing traversal, but that is not bugs. That is
just the way it's built.
The way it's built, and it still feels a little half baked.
I think in general, and we'll get to gameplay a little bit here in a minute, but I do think in general one of the things is they try to automate everything with her controls. And it causes problems sometimes.
The one criticism I have, so I actually have two criticisms about the presentation, character, animation stuff. One, there are a couple, not nearly all, but there are a couple minor side quests where the facial animation is not as good. And particularly with Aloy, you can tell that like the B team was doing this one because Aloy's facial expressions are vastly improved in this game.
It's
mind-blowing. You can tell what she's thinking most of the time.
Yes.
And like there's moments when some of the minor side quests where she's got that kind of blank look she had in the first game again, and in the main quest and like the big side quest, you'll see like she's got like kind of a half smirk on her face sometimes where you can tell like she doesn't believe what's happening, but she's kind of playing along. Like you get a lot more facial reads of her inner thoughts. Which is actually it's impressive for any game, let alone this one. Like they did a great job, and some of these, Aaron, the guy from the guy from the previous game, her friend with the mohawk, like his facial animation is some of the best I've ever seen in anything.
I mean,
like
the characters,
it's incredible.
It really is incredible.
These are, and this has been pointed out on social media a lot. These are some of the best looking black people in any game I've ever seen. Like the variety in skin tone and color and they did a lot of work and a lot of research, and it took a lot of care to make people look like real people, and it's really impressive. But the one thing is the side quest thing. The other thing is because you have the BioWare style wheel of decision making. When it points in the conversation, you get to choose what Aloy says or asks. They still have the thing where everybody's talking and everybody's animated and then everybody sort of slowly goes back to rest position before it fades in the dialogue wheel again, and it's really artificial seeming. Like there's got to be and the way BioWare gets around that is it pops the dialogue wheel up early, so you can kind of pick your choice before the conversation stops moving, and this one doesn't do that. The conversation just sort of lulls and the dialogue wheel pops up slowly, and then you pick your next option. And I think if they went more of a BioWare way, and like it would feel a little less artificial. But that is such nitpicking.
Bottom line, vastly improved.
Just incredible.
It really.
Maybe the most improved animation system from one game to the next I have ever seen.
It is amazing.
Like it is unreal.
You don't have much agency over the story. There's one point in the game where you do have a choice of which path you want to take. But
you can always go back and do the other one.
Right, it doesn't really...
you're never locked out of anything.
Yeah, and there's really no branching paths to the story, so to speak, where you make a decision and it changes how things happen.
Yeah, you can choose the order, but you are always doing all the things.
Yeah. And so that may be...
And the order is pretty determined because of the level requirements.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, pretty much. There's also a group of kind of superheroes in the game that are your enemies that appear from some far-flung galaxy. And you end up mixing it up with them. They're superhumans, and part of the plot is trying to figure out how you can fight them and combat them. And that's a long, deep thread all on its own. Story's good in this. I do feel like it does get a little bogged down in technical jargon. And like I said, the one sentence you said earlier made perfect sense to me. But someone who hasn't spent tons of hours with this game was probably like, what the hell did he just say? And so the game, it does, and if you haven't played the first, obviously if you did play the first, it helps because you know some of those terms already. But if you were to just jump into the second one, I probably think you'd be struggling a little bit to figure out what the heck's going on.
Like, it tries to catch you up, but, like, it
can only do so much.
She's constantly running into people from the previous game, or, like, you need previous knowledge of the Karja and what they did and why the Mad Sun King was a problem, who really was. I mean, that guy impacted just about everybody in a 100-mile radius when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and he makes an appearance early on.
Yeah, the Mad Sun King, he's dead.
Yeah.
But the good Sun King is your buddy.
Yep.
And they're still trying to push some kind of... That was actually the moment I really realized that, the facial animations jump, because the new Sun King has a thing for Aloy, like wants to get to know her.
Yeah, wants to get with her.
When you're done, like, come on over and like we'll hang out in my city, you know. And like in the previous game, Aloy sort of stone faced all that, but in this one, you can tell she's sort of into it, but like she's like, I got shit to do, and I can't think about this.
You can choose how she reacts.
Yeah, you can choose how she reacts, but like she just. The subtlety of her facial expression versus what she has to say and her quest that she has to complete is much better. And I really like that they've, she's always been a very introverted, sort of like socially awkward character because she was raised in the wilds by one dude who didn't really show her a lot of affection. But like, there's a lot of that in play in this, and like you can tell she's a kind person, but she doesn't always know what to do, or she doesn't really want to deal with small talk or
she
weird
doesn't
shit.
suffer fools.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Like she has no time for any of this crap, and
she just wants to get the mission.
Just get on with it. What do you want me to do? How do you need me to help? And she'll always get more involved if like someone's in trouble. If someone just wants something and she can, and like she confronts a very, very powerful man at one point, and basically says like. He does the usual RPG thing of like, all right, you want the thing I have? Well, then I'm going to tell you, like, you got to do this thing for me, and then I'll let you see the thing. And she's like, why wouldn't I just kill you now and take the thing? And he's like, you could try it, but it'll probably cause you more problems than it's worth. And she's like,
I don't know, not so sure about that.
Yeah. I'm like, I just took out 2 Apex Snap Maws and 4 Rollerbacks in one fight. I think I could take you, dude. Like, it's.
And then there's a moment in the game that I guess the best way I could compare it is like Game of Thrones Red Wedding. There's a moment in this game where everything just gets flipped on its head and like tons of people die, and that kind of changes the direction of the prose from there on out. Introduces a big villain to the game that you're going to follow for pretty much the rest of the game. I think overall I like the story in the game. I do think it's a little overwrought and a little bogged down in technicalities and verbiage, but
I mean it is hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Like in a way that a lot of games are not. And when you and actually when you think about sort of that in the first one, especially this one, it makes more and more sense why Kojima decided to work with them. Because they come at I think this is more based in reality than what Kojima does, but they are both drawing from hard science and making extrapolations from that. I think Kojima's going a little weirder with it, a little more B-movie John Carpenter, but they are both reading the same papers, I think. And I more and more I was like, okay, and I can see sort of the influence of Kojima and what Death Stranding did with its engine on this game, and the idea of sort of trying to make it about the journey. Like there is a feeling of scope in this game that just was not in the first one. And and the first one did have scale and scope, absolutely. Yeah. But you see, like, early on when you're riding that cable car in the very beginning of this game and you're going through the big canyon, I'm just like, oh, there was nothing like this in the first game. Like, just the size of the world.
The scale is gigantic. The game is gigantic.
Yeah, and you don't realize it always when you look at the map. Because you pull out to the map, okay, there's like a few tall necks. There's like, the tall necks are basically the climb the tower from Assassin's Creed of these games. But those are all their own puzzles now. And the other thing is like, all the tall necks in the first game was you just had to find a way to climb up on top of them. And in this game, there's like different ways to approach that. And they found a different, one of them's like, okay, you got to bring it down. There's no way to climb it. So you got to knock it over, which has never been even suggested you could knock a tall neck over before.
Right.
So like, there's a lot of cool, like kind of breaking the pattern in this game that I think works. They also fixed the inventory system, thank God.
Yeah. One thing I will say about the story too, though, is that Like a lot of games like this one that are just exceedingly long, you'll get these goals, and they're not easy. Sometimes they're like multi-part, and it'll take you 2 to 3 hours of game time to complete them. But what I know...
And even more because you're getting distracted by shit.
Right. But what I know after a while is that, like, there's going to be a bait and switch. You know when you accomplish that it's
that's not going to be it.
It's not going to be the revelatory thing that you want. And I talked about this on Good Morning Gaming today with these long games. After you've played them for a long time, you start to, like, I don't know, moments in the game start to lose impact because you know before you complete them that they're probably not going to be this big thing that you thought they were going to be, and like something's going to happen. It's going to be the princesses in another castle, essentially.
Oh yeah, but also that's just storytelling.
Yeah,
like when she's hanging out, talking to Gaia, and she's telling her all the the 3 components she has to go find. And she's like, well, it's not gonna be that easy. Like it's obviously because everything's too fun, everything's too fine right now. It's like, oh, just go get these things, and they're gonna be complications. Obviously, you're gonna tell these various stories, and I do appreciate that. Like,
here's the pit, by the way.
This is the pit that does that. Yeah, you're not getting out of this one alive. I appreciate that. Like a lot of the big quests are basically like telling you like more information about these tribes and these groups of people and who they are. And
there's so much lore hidden in here.
It's fascinating. Like the what was it, I can't remember all their
names. There's so much voice acting. I pretty much skip through them all. But I mean, every conversation you have with a person, there's like 5 options, and then there's like 3 minutes of exposition behind each option.
Yeah, the side quests are definitely taking a page from The Witcher 3. Like
it's insane.
Like, and to the point that you can see, like there's main quests, there's side quests, there's errands, there's jobs, there's a bunch of levels of what kind of involvement they are. And I still don't even have the thing that I get to breathe underwater with, or like all that.
Based upon what you told me you'll get it.
Getting soon, but like. Yeah. I haven't seen those crabs yet. I'm 33 hours in.
Well, there's the demo that they put out, the first real gameplay of it. I'm way into this game. I still have not seen that.
Yeah, it's gonna be clearly it's gonna be a while before I see the coastline. Like it's like because that's like the highest level stuff is out where San Francisco was.
Yeah, and that's kind of your goal ultimately, is that you need to make it to the Pacific
Ocean. Yeah, you're going west.
Yeah, and that's where your end goal kind of is. Overall, though, story does a great job of pulling me through the game. I am dozens and dozens of hours into it. I'm
also
still engaged. I'm still excited about what I learn and what I see in the game.
Also because the moment-to-moment storytelling is engaging. Like the characters are interesting.
Yep.
Like that's pretty unusual in a lot of these games too. Like, I care about who these guys are. I'm interested in the different cultures. Like there's the one in was it Peacefield or whatever that was, like the farmers that you run into, and like they all of them have like a seed pod they wear on their clothes that they are given when they're born, and they fill them with seeds that mean something because of the plants they like, and when they die their loved ones retrieve that seed pod and plant those seeds as a memorial to them, so they go on. And it's just like that's a really cool idea for a culture, and also it's like a thing that I like that they did think about like what these different groups of people would start to think and what they'd believe based on where they ended up being booted out of their clone vats or whatever, like with no guidance and no you've got like the Tanakh, who are like very warlike because where they kind of existed, they had holograms of military history stuff from this museum that was like glorifying this like elite squad, and it's just like so they became like a Klingon culture because they like and like there's a lot of fun stuff with that, and what they all look like. They all look very different. Like, I'm impressed that they just like people wearing various armor things and like machine parts. I can tell the silhouette what tribe they're from from
absolutely.
a distance. Like it's very well done.
Yep. Let's talk about the design of the game. It is an action RPG, and it comes with all the requisites that you would expect. There's leveling up. When you level up, you generally get some skill points that you can use to spend, and then your overall health goes up a little bit.
Yeah, 10 points per level. And you also get skill points for just completing quests too.
Yeah,
so
you do.
That goes pretty fast.
Skill tree. There are 6 different skill point categories. Each one of them has 20 to 30 unlocks. The 6 categories are Warrior, Trapper, Hunter Bow, Survivor, Infiltrator, and Machine Master. Which of those threads have you gone deepest down?
Hunter and what was it? I've gone way down the melee one, the hunter
Warrior
one, and the healing one.
Yep. Me too.
I have not put a single point in trapping.
Me either. I've not put a single point in trap. I've spent a ton on melee. I spent a ton on hunter, which is your bow, basically, and then healing. And then I put a little bit into the stealth stuff because
I put a fair amount in the stealth.
Because what I've realized is like hiding in the bushes, like you can wipe out whole herds of machines.
Well, I went down the stealth tree specifically to get my silent strike powered up. That's what I wanted.
Me too.
So I want to kill everything in one shot as much as I can. And I did go down the machine master tree a little bit because once I get I've gotten a couple cauldrons, got the overrides in place. I really enjoy making an overridden machine aggressive and sending it in to fight like a kaiju battle. Like that's a
well, eventually cool you can make the machines turn on each other as you get down the tree. I think the tree's good. Like I don't think I'm going to come anywhere near completing maybe any of them by the time I finish the game.
Oh, I think I will.
Really?
Maybe not Trapper.
You do a lot more side quests than I do.
I do a lot. Yes. I mean, there have been times when like suddenly I look at the little thing in the corner. I'm like, oh, I have 15 skill points. I should do something with those. And then, of course, in there you've got your special moves that you can do with each weapon and valor abilities, which are like new super moves, basically.
Yep. You build as you fight enemies. You build up a meter. When it's full, you basically go into over the shoulder view, and then you tap R1, and that sends you into this like frenzied state where your damage output is
or whatever. There's different ones. So like there was the damage ones. The one I use right now is a chameleon.
Oh,
so the stealth tree one where I can
is that where you go invisible?
Turn it completely invisible and get 100. I get like 100% damage bonus.
Yeah, and there's one for each of those 6 of those skill trees.
Yeah,
and like
there's two each.
Two each. Oh, that's right, because you go down. There's another.
There's one at the bottom.
And the way that works is if you buy the skills around the node, the node eventually gives you that power.
Yeah, and then you can spend more skill points to upgrade that power.
Right.
To a level 3.
Yeah, it's deep.
There's a lot. There's a lot in there.
Yep. More than enough.
Yeah. This is the opposite of Dying Light to me, where I'm just like, oh, almost all these upgrades change how the game works.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is like that I didn't really remember until I started upgrading the outfits more. I'm like, oh, like 2 or 3 points in this game of damage or protection matters.
It does matter.
Like they do actually change the game a little bit because the numbers are not very inflated in this game like some RPGs have, where it's like, oh, I want like 3,000 defense. Like, no, you got 30 defense. You're doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say too, though, is that the new weapons and armor come at a very slow drip.
They do.
Like, you can buy stuff, but if you look at it, it's like I ended up like sticking with just my default hunter bow for the first 15 hours.
Yeah, I kept that for a long time until I got like basically you'll hit ones that you can upgrade them to have a higher maximum damage.
Yep.
And those are going to replace what you already have. But I've stuck with it. I had the one sniper bow for until like the last 3 hours of the game.
Yeah.
Because they do fine.
Yeah.
Like
I've had 2 outfits the whole game.
Yeah,
I'm
on my second outfit.
3 or 4 different bows total.
What's your second outfit?
I don't even know what it was called.
Mine is the Shadow Karja. It's a dark one with like an eagle face.
Well, I ended up turning.
But it was all melee. It was all defense, so I turned that way up.
You may have seen it in the B-roll earlier, but I turned Aloy into like a goth princess. She has like black lipstick and
I had her
black eyeliner and like. Yep.
I like that you can dye the armor.
Yeah,
like, that's fun.
You discover all this stuff just cruising around the world. What else? The workbench. So there's a place where you can go to craft. After the first 5 hours of the game, it almost became worthless. Like, I don't craft anything anymore other than the arrows and ammo and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I upgrade the pouches when I can, but the gating on that is very widespread because the animals I have murdered more rabbits than you can ever. But like the animals you need for that just don't show up until much later, so you're sort of stuck with what you have.
I don't like how they handle that at all. How they're like, okay, you need X number of stuff that you've collected a lot of. And then here's this one thing that you need that you'll never just find playing the game. And to its credit, you can hit, I think, triangle, and it'll create a quest for you to just go get that resource. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like the crafting in this is kind of pointless. For people who are going to play this for a couple 100 hours, I think it makes more sense. For someone who's just trying to play through it, like, I got to the point where I had leveled up, like, all my weapons as much as I could without that one special component. So usually by the time you get to level 3, that's where you need the special component to go any level. That
once
level
you're in
higher.
the blue weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the big gating components was a bellowback sack.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I finally started finding them, and then I realized like you have to kill them without blowing their sack, because the others you have to knock the component off. And but I've actually enjoyed that. Once I realized like if you scan them, you can go through the stuff, and it shows you which ones are key upgrade components. So I'm like, okay, here I am with the giant turtle.
Yeah.
What is that? I can't remember the name of it. Snap.
I don't remember.
Snap back or something. But like the thing you need on that are the little bolts that hold its shell on. And it's got like 6 of those. So I'm like, if I can just hit this thing over and over and get those, I can get 6 of those bolts, and I'll be good.
Yeah.
So I did that and fought it for like 20 minutes, just slowly picking off those bolts, and got it. And like then I come back and I start looking through my armor upgrades for the new thing I got, the new weapon I got, and like the maximum upgrade requires 7 bolts. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
See, but
now I have a bow that can rip those off in 2 shots.
Right.
So it's better than the 7 shots it was taking before.
But that is the way this game is. You shouldn't really just go in and murder the animals. First you scan, or the machines. First you scan them. You can figure out where their weak spots are. But as Matt said, it will also tell you, hey, these components you don't want, because if you kill the machine, sometimes you lose those parts. You can't.
You always lose them.
Yeah, you can't scavenge the parts from their dead corpse.
Yeah, the special parts, the component parts will always be destroyed when you kill them. So you have to knock them off first.
Yeah.
Unless they are webbing for one of the sack things, in which case you have to leave that intact when you kill them, and then you will always get it if you left it intact. Because the trick on that is if you blow that up, they lose their primary offensive ability, which makes it easier. So the idea is you have to kill them harder.
Risk reward. Yeah. Totally.
Which is annoying, especially with the alligators, because they shoot acid at you.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the way they handle that stuff. I wish it was more optional. Like if you wanted like Uber bag, or if you wanted like Uber bow or Uber spear, okay, give me a 2-hour quest to get that. But you get basically to your second upgrade, and at that point you're basically forced to go and look for the stuff.
I mean, some of that's just like kind of power gating.
Yeah,
they know.
It totally is.
But like now, like at this point, I have more bellow. I spent 10 hours not having any bellowback sacks largely because I didn't run into any.
Yeah.
And when I did, I was not strong enough to deal with any of them. And now I have like more than I can spend, and I don't need them anymore because I've gotten past those upgrades, and now I need some other thing I haven't.
Too bad you can't trade with me and give them to me.
Well, that's you can. The other place you can get rare some of those rare components is in the museum. That museum place. You can trade the black box subquest in for some really rare stuff. And it's cheap. It's only 1 black box per thing, so if you want
I've only found 2, so...
Oh, I have like 6 or something.
Really? Did you intentionally go looking for them?
No, the next one pops up on the map when you find one. But you just have to like look for it, because she's never going to really call it out unless you walk right by it.
See, I've just been playing through the campaign and organically finding stuff.
Yeah,
you won't find many black boxes if you just follow the main campaign path.
There's one right next to the main campaign path at one point. Like
that's probably one of the 2 that I got.
Yeah, but like I do like picking them apart and figuring out how to get the things I need from them and stuff.
It makes the game different, that's for sure.
Yeah, some of them are like, these guys are very annoying until you can ride them. But
I also don't like how mounts are handled. I hate that you have to like commandeer every mount. Like, it gets annoying, especially after you play something like, and I hate to bring up this comparison, but Pokemon Legends Arceus, like, that mount system in that is fine. Like, you just push a button, it morphs, you're on the mount. In this one, you have to take them over every time. And so what I found myself doing is, like, when I ride way off on something or get somewhere on a mount, I'm very careful about where I leave that mount so I can get back to it if I need to come out of the village or whatever.
You just whistle for it.
Yeah, well, you only have, like, that cost stuff. Like, don't you have to earn, like, the ability to, aren't those pickups to whistle the mount?
No.
Oh.
It's just an ability down on the bottom.
Why does it have a count next to it then?
Doesn't.
Yeah, when I was looking through the menu, it said mount whistle 2. So I've never used it.
No, I use it constantly.
Really?
There's no limit to that. I don't know what
hilarious.
That is.
I have not used it at all. So I've been so careful with my mounts. Like, I'll make sure I leave them outside.
The downside
somewhere.
is you can only have one at a time. So like, if you have a bristleback and you override a charger, you're stuck with a charger now.
Yeah.
But no, they stay.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I saw that 2 next to it, and I'm like, oh, I only have 2 of them. I need to save that for a rainy day.
If they're limited, I don't think I've picked up any more since the beginning. That might have been some kind of glitch or something.
Could be. So I haven't been using that. That's good to know because I've been like very careful with my mounts where I leave them and make sure that like I can get back to them. Sometimes though, and I've been playing this whole way.
I forgot that this thing's in it. This is the demo from before.
Yeah.
There's got to be.
Have
double,
you fought that yet?
No, there's got to be double the number of machines in this game from the first.
Oh
one.
yeah.
Like
so I fought an elephant already, but it was in a completely different setting, and it was one of the harder parts of the game too. I would add so far. It was one of the tougher battles that I've had to fight. But it wasn't on the beach like this.
No, the hardest fight I've had is it was the 2 Apex Snap Maws with the alligators and 4 rollerbacks all at once.
That'll do it. It's
but
not easy, man.
I got
you get hit a couple times, you die.
Yeah,
it's very easy to die.
Oh yeah, this is a much more. You have to plan things a little more in this game than the first one. I mean, there was a point in the first one where you basically were invincible.
Yeah,
and I had definitely hit that point in the first game by the time I'm in
where you are
one.
now. Yeah.
And but if you get in the wrong position, like at one point last night, I was like, oh, deal with this thing, go fight this thing, and I come over the hill, and like there's like 9 there's like 9 scrappers just like sitting there looking at me. I'm like, nope,
turn around and
fighting
run.
That. Like
I'm a good bit farther than you in the game, and I still haven't got to the invincibility point. Not even close. I still die in a couple hits to a lot of enemies. So.
Well, also I forgot until starting this game again was like I had gotten really used to the secret armor in the first one, like the one you can find where you get all the components, and it's Halo armor. It's got a recharging shield that before your health gets hit, you have a recharging shield. And now I'm back down to this. I'm just like, oh right, this is how the game works. But you can
slumming it.
Like 2 good hits kills her if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's still that way, and I'm really far into the game, and it's still that way.
I think I have an ability that basically drops the damage if it drops below a certain percentage. And essentially doesn't explicitly say it, but basically like it'll stop you at 1 hit point instead of insta killing you, and that's happened like a number of times.
Yeah,
where I got hit by the wrong.
It's no joke, man. It's not an easy game, but it's not punishing either.
No, like you start over like right back.
See, I don't mind dying in games. The thing I don't like about Dark Souls is the punishment that you get for dying in Dark Souls bothers me more than the actual dying.
Well, that's the thing about the Dark Souls punishment is you have to learn that it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like you will make those souls back. Like very quickly.
I always feel like I've worked so hard to get them that when I lose them, I'm like, oh, that's soul crushing.
You'll have them back any minute. You'll have them back real fast.
I'm just about to start tangling with Elden Ring here.
And it also, what also helps that like, eventually if you level up enough in a Souls game, you'll eventually be like, oh, it would take like 5,000 souls to upgrade to level up again, and I just lost 1,000. Who cares?
Okay,
like, that wasn't enough to matter.
That's a good note.
You eventually get to like if you're having to throw yourself against a boss over and over again, like you just have to adopt that strategy. It's like, okay, I'm gonna lose whatever souls I have. I'm gonna spend everything I have to level up before I go in there. I'm gonna be okay with the fact that I'm gonna lose like 700 souls doing this, which is like 5 enemies.
Perspective is everything.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the gameplay briefly. We talked earlier about how a lot of her motions are kind of automated. It's like The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time's automatic jumping times like 1,000. She'll scramble up walls pretty much on her own. You just hold the stick in the general direction, and she just kind of finds the handholds and goes up. In a lot of ways, the game plays like Tomb Raider. I felt a lot of Tomb Raider vibes from this, meaning the 2016 reboot and on.
Right. I never thought about Tomb Raider during this.
I did.
I thought about Horizon. Like it just plays like itself to me.
Well, this did come after the reboot of Tomb Raider, so technically Tomb Raider came first. And they do share a lot of the same elements as far as traversal and combat with the bow and very simple melee weapons instead of having these elaborate...
Yeah, they're just not... Like, I associate Tomb Raider with a lot more pop and stop cover stuff, and that's just not in this game.
This does not have a cover system at all.
No.
You can duck.
Other than red weeds.
Right. Yeah, but you can't go behind like a waist-high barrier and like post up. It doesn't work that way. But I got a lot of Tomb Raider vibes from this game. And I think that is where, for me, most of the gameplay troubles come, is in the automation. The game, I admire the work that went into it. It's a lot of work to handle something like that. Have someone be able to or a character just be able to scramble across complex geometry. But every once in a while, it just doesn't work quite right, and those are kind of the awkward situations that I've had here or there. But the other complaint I would probably have is that there are so many buttons. Like some of the, like we were talking earlier about how you get like the Valor overload or whatever, and you have to like hold the L and then tap the R1. There are so many modifier buttons in this game just to craft arrows on the fly. You're holding L1, and then you're tapping the stick in the direction of the ammo you want, and then you're holding X. Like,
although you do not have to hold the stick if you're just crafting for the weapon you have equipped.
Yeah, once you tap it in the direction, it'll stay there.
Yeah.
But that's
which is important because if you're trying to do it on the fly, a lot of times you'll accidentally switch weapons to something you don't want.
Yep.
But yeah, you have to do that and hold X.
There's a lot of stuff like that in this game where you have to hold one button and then tap another one. Or
I mean, you just got...
You get used to it after a while. But
I wish there was a little more reminders somehow. I don't know how you do it really, but reminders of what each weapon's special abilities that you've unlocked, like, because a lot of those are like, aim and then hit R1 and then do this or whatever. You're like,
because R1 will be the alternate fire of the weapon, while R2 is just the base fire of the weapon.
Yeah, and some of that is like really, and those are worth learning.
Yes.
I forgot about them for a long time.
They totally turn the tide of a battle.
Like my sniper bow does like 110 damage normally, or did at the time, and then if I did like the kneel down shot, 550.
I know.
Like it was like half the life of a pretty big thing.
And here's a pro tip: if you're struggling with a boss fight or a battle, look into that stuff.
Yeah, use those.
Because literally, once you do it the first time, you're like, oh shit, okay.
Because you're like, oh, how am I supposed to take that guy out? Because he's like surrounded by all these other guys, and I can't do that. It's like, oh, you can just one shot him in the head with his one ability.
And then clean up the scraps. Yeah.
Because first, oh, he's got a helmet on, so if I hit him, he's gonna see where I am. But no, you can just like through it.
Yep. There's a lot of puzzle platforming. I don't think you haven't made it there. There's one area that's like a flooded facility that you have to swim through, and like.
I mean, I've done stuff like that.
There's
a lot more of it in this game than there was in the first one, and I do think the first game, like, they had some trouble, I think, sort of identifying what you could climb and what you couldn't. And so
this game does that too, though.
Yeah, but the way they did it in the first game was there was like ropes and yellow colored things hanging. That was what you could climb. In this one, when you do the scan pulse, like, it highlights in yellow, like handholds on everything. There's a lot more stuff you can climb.
And ledges will have like a neon line across them.
The problem I have with it is, like, I mean, that's a fine way to show me what I can climb, what I can't. The problem I have with it is, like, the difference between what I can climb and what I can't climb seems completely arbitrary. It's like, okay, so I can't climb that. Why? Because you don't want me to. Basically.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of that in this game. Like ledges where you're like, wait, if I could just jump up to this ledge, it's only a foot above her head, I could circumvent in this whole level. It also has level design.
And sometimes you can do that in more open world areas, but like in story based areas, like, they're very careful to invisible wall you. Which I find a little.
I don't like
cheesy.
It either. It is cheesy. And then it also does what Breath of the Wild did with Zelda in the level design, where they'll show you something on the map, and you venture all the way across the map to get there. And then you realize there's this cliff face that's blocked. You're 10 feet away from where you need to go.
But actually, you got to go 400 yards that way.
And then go around. This game has that stuff, too. Although, I will say this, Matt. There was 2 times where the game tried to do that to me, and I still figured a way to jimmy myself up the wall.
Yeah, you can figure it out here and there.
Well, it's glitching, basically. I'm just hitting jump as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's partly intentional. It just doesn't look very good.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, you do have the freedom to kind of hop over stuff that are not designated climbing things, but like the most glitchy gameplay I've had has been with the climbing. Like, she freaks out and starts like not grabbing onto the right thing and like kind of glitches across a cliff or something, or like the one thing that, because it is so automated, and like, there's an automation to how she grabs the next handhold, or whether you have to jump to hit the next, and sometimes you're like, I know you can reach that next thing, move, and she just won't move. Or like, she gets to the top of a thing and she will not pull herself up.
Yep.
And I'm like, why? And I'm like, so I drop down one, come back up the exact same place I was, and now she does climb up it. And it's like, I don't know what that's about.
I've had those same issues.
It's just, it's improved from the first game, but it is not there yet.
And I also think we are nitpicking a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're talking about instances where I've played this game for dozens and dozens of hours, and so I don't want to give the impression that the gameplay's not good.
Oh, no. That's happened like maybe 10 times in 35 hours. But in a game this good,
it stands out.
They stand out. Those things stand out, and it's like, and it also feels like a kind of a solved problem in other games, because like, maybe I would have thought of Tomb Raider more if the climbing and traversal worked smoothly.
That's a good point, actually.
But the fact that it doesn't makes me not think of Tomb Raider, because I think Tomb Raider's climbing and traversal is very good.
Yep. Let's finish up by talking about the visuals, the graphics.
Just unbelievable. Like, what the. Like, I recognize that this is a hybrid game that runs on PS4, but holy crap, you'd never know it.
I'm interested to see what it looks like on PS4.
The Digital Foundry stuff, it looks pretty darn good. I mean, obviously it doesn't have the bells and whistles, the shadows, but even in performance mode, this thing is gorgeous. Oh my God. Gorgeous.
And look, regardless of platform, the animation for the machines is incredible.
Like you've got these, it's just every one of these machines has more polygons happening than like every game ever released for the PS1. You know, it's like
it's just their animation.
Just sitting there, just sitting there watching a Thunderjaw walk by is just, it was in the first game, but now it's even more like the hoses moving on their own, and like
and just the way like they're sniffing around looking for you, like the way their curiosity is portrayed in the anime, it's incredible.
The way you can tell, like even similar, like like lance horns and they got lance horns and like a couple other ones like the deer types or the ant. They all, you think they look the same, but you can tell which one it is from like a distance because of how they move,
by how they act.
They're doing. It's really good.
I mean, the animation in general in this game is freaking top notch.
Yeah, that is the most improved thing from the first game to this one.
I mean, I can't even tell
all the animations. I mean, the animation for the machines in the first game was not any kind of slouch.
It was still great. Yeah,
but this is just all next level.
Next level. Yeah.
I do not understand where I guess I do get where the Horizon 1.5 complaints were coming from in the reviews, because it is just the first game with enhancements. But like, there is not an element of this game that I can say they just sat back and didn't try to improve it in some way.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if they didn't get there fully and stuff like the climbing, like there was not a single element of the game they rested on their laurels.
Hey, it's way better than Breath of the Wild's climbing, and that didn't seem to bother these critics all that much, did it?
At least when it rains, I can still play the fucking game.
This game, I can't even tell you how many times I know it's a cliche, but literally my jaw just dropped. You come up over a rise and you just see this plane with all these gigantic machines just like interacting. It's amazing. I can't believe it is a dual game. It's also built for PS4.
The vistas are incredible. And like they are. The other thing that I'm impressed by in that regard is how often I see areas or environments where I just think there was nothing like this in the first game.
Yep.
Like they just couldn't do it then.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It passed my wife test. I've told you guys. I'm telling you. I tell you guys all the time. My wife is the best barometer for something that really steps outside the bounds and does something that the average person will notice. She stood in awe at this game looking at it. She literally just stood and looked at the TV and was like, oh my God. Like, she says this once every 3 or 4 years, like, because she's been with me all this time and she's seen games change over time. And like, once every 3 years, she'll make a statement where like, okay, I see now why you got a PS5, or I see now why you got this new TV that's hanging on the wall when I thought the other one was fine. Like, and this game has done that with her. It's stunning. It really is stunning. Matt, is this game a killer app?
I mean, it would sell me a system if I didn't already have one, and if I could go find one.
Yeah.
Yeah, although, again, the one downside of it is I would say you really should play the first game.
Yeah.
To understand what's happening.
Yeah, even like some of the synopsises, like GameSpot did one and IGN did one. They were both pretty good. Yeah. And there's a little one at the beginning of the game.
I just feel like it helps a lot to know all these characters.
Yeah.
You know, like
on a personal level.
Yeah, it's so, especially the early parts of the game are so rooted in her reuniting with some of these people and sort of acknowledging that they are friends and that they matter to her, that like I think you're losing a lot of character with her if you don't already know who they are. Especially Aaron and Varl.
Yeah.
And I can never remember her name, the badass hunter girl with the Karja.
Oh,
you know, she's a side quest in this, but like,
yeah, I don't remember.
She was in Frozen Wilds. So like, she was one of my favorite characters in the first game, and I was glad to see her come back.
Yeah, lots of characters have come back for this that survived.
Yeah, anyone who lived through the first game is pretty much in here.
They will show up eventually. Yeah. I mean, this is 2 thumbs up from both of us, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer buy if you have a PS5
like
or
if there's Game of the Year competition left here, and I think there probably is.
Yes, I think there is. Yeah.
Like already you're like, what a year. Like
here you're seeing the trees, by the way, the skill trees we were talking about earlier.
Put it this way: if this came out last year, this is Game of the Year.
Oh yeah, this would have beaten Ratchet for me.
Oh yeah, like this is better than anything I played.
Because
last year.
This is, I would argue, just as pretty as Ratchet, and it's a lot more meaty as far as the game and the combat.
Yeah,
and
it goes on forever.
It's also gigantic.
Yeah, but I don't mind that.
Yeah, it's starting to bother me now. I talked about it again in Good Morning Gaming this morning, that these games, like this one isn't like 120 hours or anything like that. It's more reasonable, like 60 or 70, but
I don't know. I'm at 33 and I feel like I'm only I feel like we got a ways to go, and I'm going to do all the weird side.
You do have a long ways to go, for sure.
I've been taking my time to some degree, but like the other thing is like, I have not been doing my clear everything out before I move on thing too much with this, because so many things are gated by abilities you get through the story that like very quickly I learned, because sometimes I'll do that, like, okay, I'll play a lot of story stuff, I unlocked a new section of the map, I'm just going to run around and do all the question marks. But I very quickly, and listen to a podcast or something, but I very quickly learned that like I'm going to keep running into things, blocked paths, like I'm going to run into like things I can't do anything with yet, so it's better to go, I'm like, okay, so I got to progress more or less through the main story till I get all the equipment that she needs to unlock everything, and then I can go back and do all my open world stuff. So I'm actually progressing faster than I normally would because of that. Which is good. I mean, I think it's kind of keeping you on task, but the side quests are rewarding and interesting enough to keep me interested, like give me breaks from the main, because the main quest stuff is extensive. Like if you commit to like one of the big main quests, you're in there for a while.
Oh, for a couple hours at least. Yeah. It's no joke for sure. But the game shows you very early that that's the way it works. So, and as you said, there are bite-sized chunks where you can just spend 10 or 15 minutes doing something and still make some progress towards something meaningful.
Also, the hunting trials are way better. Like the hunting trials in the first game, which are basically timed hunts, were the most annoying thing in that whole game to me. Because to get the best times, you basically had to memorize the layout of things and know how to. This one, like, it's still timed, but the timers are much more generous, and the objectives vary. Like, somewhere it's like, okay, kill this many things before the time runs out. Cool. But then there was one that was like, there's 3 treasure chests on the field. Go get them without being seen in this amount of time. And it's like it's just different objectives make all the difference there. So they've improved that too.
How are you feeling about the game's Metacritic?
I think it's too low.
At an 8.9.
I think that's ridiculous.
I think it is ridiculous.
This thing's in the 90s easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
I mean, I get it. They had bugs, but I don't understand how, like,
some bugs, but a lot of the really low scores are bizarre. Like the text are bizarre. Well, that was the Telegraph. Telegraph was just like off in their own world. Like, but like no, like I guess if you're like so burned out on anything open world, period, like you're just,
then you should be reviewing.
Then what are you reviewing this game for? Like, yeah,
I don't know. All I can say is go buy it. It is amazing. It's a technical marvel. It has a great story. Despite the nitpicking that we did, which we do on this, we try to present all the issues of a game to you guys so you can make a decision on your own, an informed decision. Regardless of that, this game is just amazing. A lot of times when I play a game and come in here and talk with you about it and share it with you guys, I usually don't go back and play it again. I will go back and play this one. I will finish this one just like I've gone back and I've kept playing Dying Light 2 after I talked about that on the show. To me, this is a no-brainer buy. Pro tip, by the way, I don't know why anyone with a PlayStation or a PS5 wouldn't have bought it by now, but if you haven't, here's the pro tip. Buy the PS4 version. Do not buy the PS5 version. The PS4 version you can buy for $10 cheaper, and you get a free PS5 upgrade. And Sony's trying to bury this, like, from people's view for whatever reason. I want people to know, because initially Sony had said, no, we're not going to offer a free upgrade for Horizon, but fans were like, oh, no, you already promised this. And then Sony switched course and now is offering the free upgrade, but you'd never know it if you look at marketing and things like that. So
yeah, it was very hard to find that information.
Yep.
Much like it was very hard to find the information that if you got the deluxe version of Sifu, you got to play it 3 days early.
Right. Yeah.
And then it didn't work.
A lot of stuff is buried in the stores.
They've been very bad about messaging benefits to the consumer recently, and that's not great.
Another note, this is the last PS4, PS5 game you're getting a free upgrade for.
Yeah, and that's only because they said it so early.
And I'm sure they wish they mentioned it, and the fans revolted. But like Gran Turismo 7, which is coming up here in a few weeks, no free upgrade. You have to pay the $70 for the PS5 version if you want it. But a pro tip, you should absolutely buy the PS4 version of this, regardless of whether you have a PS4 or a PS5. Let's go and see if we have any questions about the game. You guys feel free to ask. If you're sitting on the fence on this game, and you don't know whether you should buy it or not, and you have a couple questions about it, hit us up, man. We've been playing the living crap out of this game. And as Vincent says, GT7, $10 upgrade. Yep. So you have to pay the extra $10
at this point,
PS5.
PS5 games are $70.
Yeah. Sneaky says it's on the box. When was the last time someone looked at a video game box?
I don't actually have a physical copy of this.
I do have a physical copy of it, but I didn't even look at the box, and I have it. So that's not good enough, Sneaky. You should know that. Sneaky says PS4 cover has free PS5 upgrade on it. Yeah, again, no one sees boxes. ETH Demon, which mode are you playing, in performance or quality? I'm playing on quality.
I'm in performance.
Are you?
Yeah.
You want the higher frame rates?
Yeah, the higher frame rate is better for me, especially in the fights. 30's fine. Like I certainly played but I played a fair amount of the first game in 60 when they did the upgrade, and like it's hard to go back. And I think it looks fine without it.
This game doesn't have like counters in it, so you don't have like this 5-frame window where you can like do a parry and then
but I do have a 5-frame window of hitting that target on the guy's on the tail when it's swinging around.
That's true.
Like,
fair enough.
Like if you watch how I play, like I'm just like I need to be able to hit something in like a 3-frame window because that's when the tail's over here.
Yeah.
And I can like to its credit, like and like.
Well, I just hit R3 and slow it down, and it's easy.
I
to
do
target
that too,
anything.
but like depends on the machine, but like. That's the other thing I really like about this. And the first one had this, but this one has it more, is like that feeling of like, okay, I beat this thing. I new machine, fight this thing, beat the thing. Don't feel like I really beat it like well.
It's
you
true.
know? And later on,
because there are layers too.
Yeah, you learn how to take them apart, and you're like, oh, okay, so it took me 10 minutes to beat this thing before. It just took me a minute.
Because you know what parts to
now
target
you know
right
what to
away.
rip off.
Yeah.
Now I know to take this thing off, and I can pick it up and shoot you right here in the chest with it, and the chest opens up. Now I got a better weak spot to hit.
Yep.
They're
stuff
puzzles.
Like that.
Yeah.
The machines are like puzzles when you
fight
them.
It's very cool.
And since I have been playing on quality, I have honestly had no problems at all. Like I haven't had any issues where I'm like the frame rate.
I mean, I had it on quality for a while, and I just ended up deciding on performance because I didn't miss the little extra bells and
sometimes.
whistles.
Like once I'm over the awe of the game.
Yeah.
And
There's
I'm
a
like,
little
I just wanna
sharpness
play well.
that's missing. Certainly there's like a particle effect over the blight that is a little.
That's true. It gets a little dithery.
It's a little dithery on the performance mode.
Yeah.
So it's better in quality, but like. Also, like, there's part of me, there's part of, like, this long-range planning version of me that's like, if I play it in performance mode, then there'd be a reason to play it on PC in, like, a year and a half. Because I can do it all full-up 4K and everything with all that. I get something with ray tracing, yeah.
Okay. Let's get to some more questions. You guys just flooded the chat with them.
Because I really am, the possibility of playing this 100-hour game twice is actually right there in my mind.
Swanland, how well does it recap the past game? I have a hard time remembering the original with my memory. You're not alone. It's hard to remember this stuff because I mentioned earlier a lot of the verbiage and the vernacular they use in this is very techy. And if you even if you played, like I played the original game, but that was like 5 years ago. It's very easy to forget a lot of the stuff in this game. So there's a 5-minute, roughly, like cinematic at the beginning that recaps what happened in the last one. It's very Crib Notes version, though. I would recommend, and we have it curated to Sifted right now, there are 2 recap videos, one from IGN and one from GameSpot. Just go to the Horizon Zero Dawn page, and the recaps are there, and they're like 18 or 20 minutes, and they do a great job of catching you up on really the stuff that matters and very little stuff that doesn't. So that's my recommendation. Kevin Rafa, your favorite new machine? All of them. Like... They're all great, man. I don't want to spoil too much.
I really like the is it the Sun Soarer? The pterodactyls. There's pterodactyls.
Oh yeah, those things are hard to fight too, man. They're really fast.
I think those are my favorites.
Yeah, they're hard. I mean, I don't want to.
I haven't seen all of them yet.
Yeah, my favorite new machine is one that I don't want to spoil. It's a water-based creature, though. That's all I'm going to say. There are amazing new machines in this game. Cinetike, how long do you think the game is? Do you feel any open world fatigue, bloatness with this?
No.
I do not know exactly how long the game is. I'm about 44 hours into it. I've been grinding people to talk about this game. It has taken over my life over the last 6 days. And I feel like I've probably got another 10 hours left roughly. I would say for most people it's probably around a 60-hour game. For someone like Matt, who completes a lot of side quests, is more of a completionist, I'm guessing you could probably get to 100.
This is definitely going to take me 100 hours.
Yeah.
I think. I don't have any doubt of that.
If game length and the amount of content in a game is your concern, don't worry about it. You're good.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
You're going to get your money's worth, I promise.
Yeah. El Guapo 3385. I am loving the game so far, but I feel like the inventory management is decent. Too many weapons and Valor Surges are useless.
Actually, here, and I finally found what I was looking for here. The best Horizon Zero Dawn lore recap that I found is on a YouTube channel called Tiptoe the Tank.
Okay.
It's a two-parter. It's like an hour, but it is the best breakdown of the story and themes and what the backstory of Horizon is.
There you go.
It covers everything and catches you all the way up. I watched it before jumping into this because I knew I wasn't going to have time to replay the first game before this came out. And it helped a lot. If you have played the first game before, it will jog your memory. And I do think the new game itself does a pretty good job of reminding you who everybody is.
It hits all the big points. Yeah.
And there's some recap stuff. There's a recap at the beginning, and they do go into her memories and her history at times. And like the character,
the game,
returning character, kind of like it's like, oh, I haven't seen you since we did that thing.
Blah, blah, blah.
Like,
yeah. They do a pretty good job.
They get you there.
I think.
But yeah, Tiptoe the Tank, I think, has a really good... She also does a full break... I think it's like a 4-video breakdown of the entire story of Resident Evil.
Oh.
From, like, start to finish.
Oh, geez.
Like, everything. Like, from, like, those early weird games.
Someone else
like,
does it.
It is... It just... you don't get to Resident Evil 4 until, like, halfway through the 3rd video or something.
Wow.
It's just everything. And, like... It's weird because like it's all nonsense, but you can kind of see how they've stitched things together, even going back to like 7 and how 7 ties in with the origins of everything. Mm-hmm. Like Capcom's doing some work. I give them credit there.
Do you think they're actually doing the work, or do you think a lot of times these people fill in the cracks?
No, someone is, because there's a lot of it's different weird things you maybe never even played the one game or whatever, but it's like this one weird PS1 game explained why this happened, and so 7 took from whoever did the stories of the recent Resident Evil stuff has like some kind of show Bible that they're running from. Like they definitely...
That's better than I thought.
They definitely went back and looked through everything and said, okay, what can we do with this absolute nonsense
to make sense
and
of
try
it.
to
and so
sew it together
forward,
somehow.
It can make more sense.
Yeah, and they kind of pull it off. Like like maybe you don't notice it when you're playing like a long drawn out game, but when someone just summarizes it in like a video, you're like, oh yeah, I guess that does kind of flow with it. Yeah, I see why you made that choice. Would be like kind of what I would say. But yeah, Tiptoe the Tank does a lot of good lore video.
Okay, a couple more questions here. Actually, we didn't answer El Guapos.
The hippos are good too.
It's
the
not
wide
really
maws.
a question. It's just more of a comment. He says too many weapons and Valor Surges are useless.
I wouldn't say that about all the Valor Surges. Most of them are good. The weapons, I do understand that there's a glut of weapons in this because, like, the reason there's so many weapons is...
I don't feel like there is a glut, though. Do you mean weapon types or just the number of weapons
The number of weapons, because, like, you can get it's like, why is this hunter bow better than this hunter bow or that? The reason a hunter bow of any type is better than another one is how you prefer to play.
Well, it's mid-ranged.
Yeah.
But bows are, like, either close range, mid-range, or long range.
But I mean, like... That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, individual, why would you prefer one hunter bow over another?
Oh.
And the reason, because there's a bunch of different hunter bows, more than you would ever need.
Yeah.
But the reason is, A, they have different limits to like their full upgrades because they're different rarities. And B, I have one hunter bow that has normal like impact tear ammo and has fire ammo. I have another one that has electric ammo and frost ammo. Like whatever you prefer to use. And
the elemental parts of it.
Yeah, so the elemental stuff is the key. And like I didn't have a plasma weapon forever. Like I bought a weapon specifically to have plasma, which didn't shoot. So that is partly a gating method. But like eventually, I would really like to have just half hunter bows and half sharp shot bows because I don't use anything else. I just use bows.
That's all I use. Yeah.
I use sharp shot bows to pick things off from a distance, and I use hunter bows for literally everything else.
Yeah.
Except maybe once in a while, I use a rope caster to hold a flying enemy down. That's about it.
But I don't have that many bows. Like you could see in the B-roll, I was showing you like my most recent like lineup of weapons. I think I have 8.
You do if you buy everything you encounter.
I don't.
But I don't.
Yeah.
In the first game you could because there was basically...
his comment is basically saying like the game just gives you so many bows.
You do get a lot of weapons, but I only use maybe 5 out of like the 100 or so. But like,
I've only bought 2, and I have 8 total.
I bought a few.
So the game doesn't give me that many.
I have like 30. I have tons.
Whoa.
But partly this might be because of doing all the side quest
stuff. It has
stuff.
to be.
But no, I have tons of weapons,
wow.
and I only use like 6
like
of them. Like I barely.
I literally
use
like 3,
and most of them are green, so they're kind of useless at this point. I'm waiting for the blues and the purples to show up. But no, I definitely. But if you like prefer, I don't know why you'd prefer like a warrior bow which is more of like a submachine gun kind of thing.
Yeah, it's close range.
I used one for a long time because it was the only electric weapon I had for a long time. But as soon as I got electric ammo on another like longer range bow, I swapped that out like crazy, like instantly.
It's really more about the elemental powers of each bow.
Yeah, it's elemental powers and what you prefer.
Yeah,
like if you want to trap things, you can do that. If you want to just shoot things from a distance, which I do, that's a And I also really appreciate that they kind of simplified or at least made more user friendly. If you hit a elemental weak spot with the same element, it blows up.
Oh yeah,
and does a lot of like that is a super satisfying way to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if it's not that enemy's weak spot, it can definitely cause a problem for them, and then like it'll also spread that to other machines near it. Like that's great too. So that's why my main weapon choice is A, base damage, and B, elements. Yep. Like I need each type of element. I spent more money and used a rare component to buy a plasma bolt caster, which I don't even like bolt casters very much, but I had to get that.
They're effective though, man.
But I had to get it because I needed a plasma weapon because I needed something to overload those.
You could buy.
The other one I found that I loved. I don't know if you've run into this one. It's a rope caster, I think, but it's a canister rope caster. It doesn't hold the enemy to the ground. It attaches a canister of a certain element to them. So
you can slowly drains.
No, then you can shoot it and blow it up. So like basically, if an enemy doesn't have a weak spot canister that you have ammo for, you can just shoot it onto him and then blow it up that way. Which is like that's great.
That's also a technique that you have when you're fighting any enemy. Is like you can shoot an enemy and this thing will glow on them, and then if you shoot it with an arrow, then it explodes. It's there's depth to it, believe it or not. Let's see if we can maybe one or two more questions. AJ the Legend Watson. So is this more impressive than Ratchet, or has it taken the crown? Visually?
Hard to say. Like, I mean, it's Ratchet is a smaller game in terms of what it's attempting to do.
The level is so much smaller.
Yeah. And just like everything's closer to the characters, and like I mean, Ratchet still does that like Pixar movie in a video game thing in a way that just nothing else does.
But I mean, this game runs right up against the Uncanny Valley too. I mean, it really like some of
there's a couple of scenes in this where I'm just like, God, you'd think that was real. And I mean, people were posting. I saw there was one tweet that was going around of all pictures of all the black characters and how good they looked and how diverse they were in skin tone and appearance, and a couple people were like, I thought those are cosplayers. Yeah, like because they are really good. Like they are.
It's Uncanny Valley, like I said. Aaron, it's uncomfortably close. Yeah, to
even
reality.
Aaron, who was even in the first game. In this game, Aaron looks like a real man
instead of some
he looks
weird,
like a real person
character.
Yeah. He looks like people I know.
Yeah,
it's bizarre, and
really
so does Varl to some degree.
I think all of them do. The characters look amazing.
Yeah,
except for the costuming. I hate the costuming in this series. Like I didn't like it in the first game. I don't like it in this one. The outfits that people wear are just insane. And like all human knowledge was wiped away. Is that where we're gonna be?
The thing you gotta remember, people like color.
It's so bizarre.
But that's what shit looked like.
I guess.
Like that, that is in line with what people would kind of invent. You forget that, like, because all of it's garish and weird, and but it's like, that's what people do. War paint and just general face paint and tattoos and decorations. Like humans have a thirst for that. People forget, and we think of antiquity, especially Western civilization, like, oh, Rome with all the marble columns and the alabaster statue. No, all Roman and Greek statues were painted up like clowns.
I know.
Like they were
people
all
don't realize that.
Yeah, like
it's all washed away.
Oh yeah, it's all washed, and now we think of that as like they were cartoons.
Painted in colors,
like, people love color.
Any comments
unless you're Kim
acting?
Kardashian, apparently, if you have pictures of that house. I don't need to see that.
No.
Her house is just white. It's like living in a blank sheet of paper. It would drive me crazy. It's like looking at the back of your retinas.
Any comments on the voice acting from Case Money? I think it's amazing. Excellent.
Voice acting is great.
And there's just hours and hours and hours of it.
Yeah. The only voice acting thing I noticed was there's a character in one of the Tanact. It's the guy. I don't know if you've run into him because I think that was a side quest, but like you have to go out and find his friends who are ambushed, but they get machine heart so they can get water.
Oh yeah.
And like you end up finding a Thunderjaw and stuff. His voice lines have a different timbre than the other characters in the scene. Like it sounds like he was recording it in like a badly audio-proof closet or something. Yeah. Sounds like an at-home recording, and it just stands out because the rest of it is so good.
It's amazing.
But it's like
like I was saying earlier, like you talk to a character and there's a wheel and there's like 5 options around the wheel. If you tap on any of those, they're going to talk for like 3 minutes. And then once you tap that option, sometimes you go to another menu where there's another full dial of options, and it's all voiced. Not only is it voiced, the facial animations look amazing.
Yeah. And like the facial animations and the facial design is so good. Like you remember these because like you can run into these characters later, not as a quest, but like you'll see them with a little thought, like
and
talk
you can
bubble
pluck
over
them
them.
out of like 20
and you see them, oh, that's that guy that I did the thing for. It's
amazing.
Whereas in the first game, like I did endless side quests for people I would never know again. You know, just another guy in a headdress kind of thing. Yeah. But in this one, I remember everybody because they are such distinct personalities and facial designs. It's really, it's striking. Like it's a next gen kind of experience I did not expect.
It really is totally.
It's not something that occurred to me that would be a.
I thought I was going to be like, it's pretty, but you can tell it's also for PS4. Nope.
No.
Like that's not how this game is at all. Okay.
The fact that they've got it running on the vanilla PS4 is insane.
It really is insane. It absolutely is. Ashes on the Hourglass. Can you shut up Aloy, or is she still as talkative as before?
She does talk a lot.
If not, I'm not buying this game. She's worse than Navi. No.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I do wish she would stop talking about how there's no room in her pack.
Yeah.
When you pick up stuff and she's like, no room in the pack. Well, there's room in my stash. I'll get it later. And it's like, who are you? I mean, look, I know you're out in the wilderness a lot. There's no one else to talk to. You do talk. I talk to myself in my house alone a lot during the lockdown. I get it.
Yeah.
But
here's an unpopular opinion. I think it will be anyway. I don't like Aloy's voice actor. I think her
Ashley Birch.
Yeah, is that Ashley Birch?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Yeah,
I don't like her in this game.
I do.
I think she's too hushed and too subdued, and like I feel like I'm struggling a lot of time to hear what she's saying.
I think that's.
But I don't think she talks that too often. Like that doesn't bother me.
No, I think she's weird. She's a weird person. Like I don't think I'd get along with Aloy in person.
I had no idea that Ashley Birch voiced her. Wow, I didn't know that.
And that's how you kind of know because she's not doing her normal voice. Like that's a choice. Definitely that's.
No, I get it. I just don't like it.
I don't. I think it's odd, but it's not off-putting to me. Like it's
too mellow. Like.
She's not mellow.
She's not assertive in
she's not mellow. She's folded in. She's very. She's
introspective or something.
She's an introvert.
Yeah.
She's an introvert that's forced into like all this weird stuff, and like it does. She stands up for herself and has her moments where she's like, I'm done with this shit. Like, which I enjoy. But I think that her quiet behavior like enhances those scenes because like you can tell she really cares at that point.
Yeah.
No, I mean I get the people that like it's a choice. It's a type of behavior that maybe you don't encounter much in real life. But I have known people that are like that, and like I think it's an interesting way to portray the hero of something like this.
I just don't like it. Personally.
Yeah, I mean I certainly understand why someone wouldn't like it, but I like how unique it is.
I'd agree with that. It is,
and I think it's important to note that Ashley Birch sounds nothing like that.
I know.
Like she's
watch the trailer for Tiny Tina.
Well, Tiny Tina, or just play Life is Strange. And that is not Chloe.
She's good. I've known her for 15 years now at this point.
But there's people
she's good at what she does.
I'm just saying that because there are people who accuse her of just being the same character all the time, and she simply
not
is
true.
not. It's not true at all.
That's definitely not true.
Aloy is not Chloe. Is not Tiny Tina, and it's Aloy I think is a very subdued performance and a very chosen performance, and I appreciate that, even if it's not something everybody's gonna love.
Tazka, do you play guided or explorer mode? I just play the one that gives you the least amount of help.
Explorer.
Yeah. Whatever that
that's
one
default was. Anyway, so I just went with that.
And I think that's it. Oh, here's one more. Cinetype, Cyberpunk 2077 versus Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh, Horizon by 1,000 miles, like not even close. I mean, I assume you're talking about game overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, Horizon is a much better game than Cyberpunk. Although I did play some of Cyberpunk.
We're going to talk about the next gen version here at the end of the show. Yeah, we'll get into it. But
put it this way, I have not gone back to it.
Like permanently, you mean?
I mean, I've still installed. I'm not saying, but like, part of the problem is I don't remember what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all your questions. Big game, definitely a game of the year contender, no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. And with games like this, we tend to talk about them a long time, but I think you're going to walk away from this discussion knowing exactly whether the game is for you and whether you should buy it or not, and that is why we were here. That is our mission at GameFace. So hope you enjoyed the discussion. It's time to move on to another PlayStation topic. This morning, we finally got the first look at the new PlayStation VR 2 hardware. We had known this.
You skipped something.
What'd you say?
You skipped something.
Oh, you're right. Oh, yeah. And I'm not very. Maybe this was subconscious, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. This is gonna be
because I'm not very excited to talk about it, but I have to. And that is Street Fighter 6 was debuted over the weekend. one of the most disappointing debuts I maybe have ever seen for video games.
I mean, this is just it's not as disappointing as just Metroid Prime 4 having a logo.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done this before. Like, this is how Capcom has always sort of teased their new Street
Metroid
Fighter.
Prime 4 didn't have a countdown clock that ran for a week leading up to its first teaser.
Well, luckily, there will be more information in the summer.
Yeah,
so
so
we don't
more
have to wait
information's
5
coming
years.
on Street Fighter 6 in the summer. What did you make of this? What did you make of Luke being featured in this trailer?
I had honestly forgotten who he was.
Right. Why all of a sudden is he in
I was more impressed by how much wider Ryu is.
Yeah.
Ryu is a big dad now. Also, I don't remember who. I think it was one of my friends, maybe on Facebook, where somebody said the Street Fighter 6 logo looks like the logo someone would design for a line of esports clothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, like that is a terrible logo.
That's kind of in line with what
it's in line with maybe what they're trying to do, but that is an awful logo.
Why is Luke in this?
I don't know.
I don't get it. And now he's all scarred up and
that's like some kind of like
muscle,
some kind of power.
Yeah, those are like his veins popping out there.
No, that's like his arms coming apart. It's like
is that
some
what
kind of psycho power thing. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like.
I thought it was like his veins bulging.
No, there are no veins that go horizontal. I think it's like ki. I think it's like he's powering up.
Huh. The twitch of the toes, the flex of the biceps. It's bizarre.
I'm just saying that like the life Ryu leads, he would not be able to intake enough protein to look like that. That's like some kind of like.
I thought it looked like a vein.
I mean, I think they are, but that's not natural. That's like some kind of like
some
psycho power, like some kind of key thing. Like that's him showing off. Like that's about to glow red or something.
Yeah.
Know?
I don't know.
And then it like kind of smokes a little bit.
Yeah, he shakes it off or whatever. So we don't have any information on Street Fighter 6 at all.
No.
Do you have a wish list of anything that you're kind of hoping for, Matt?
No. I don't. I'm so out of that scene that like, what am I gonna do? You know, it's not like the in-person events are still not really fully back. Like maybe by the time this comes out, but like I don't know who I'd play it with. You know what I mean?
Me, I'll play with you.
Yeah, but
you'll crush me.
You're not going to enjoy that after about 5 matches.
You actually won't enjoy it after 5 minutes because you'll be whooping my ass.
Yeah, I'm not going to learn anything new.
That's true. Well, if you're playing new characters, you might.
That's not how you progress in a fighting game, though. You pick one character and focus.
Yeah, I know. But which is one reason why I've never been great at fighting games, because I've never wanted to do that. I've always had at least a handful of characters that I want to play as, and never just stuck with one long enough to have a main, really, which is dumb. But that's just the way it's been for me. You don't have a wish list of anything? How much do you want them to change the game for 6? Because a lot of esports participants don't want them to change at all, and I understand that perspective. It's like, if you look at other sports, they don't really change the rules of football very often, or basketball. They make slight tweaks here and there, but they won't change the fundamentals. And I feel like a lot of esports athletes, I use that term loosely, don't want the games to change that much. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I don't know what you do to change Street Fighter, really. I mean, I think just stick more or less with what you've got. Because 5 eventually got to a good place. The roster, I guess, is I'm sure they'll have some new, gimmick ability, like focus in 4 and the various counter stuff and other bars. Everything's got 4 bars and stuff now. But I don't know. I'm sure they'll come up with some. I just don't. I don't know what to think about this game because all the people that made 4 and 5 what they are gone.
Yeah, I know.
So I just don't know. This is a total X factor to me.
I'm very nervous about this.
I have no idea. Honestly, I'm more excited about that collection they announced.
No, yeah.
With all the because that has a couple games that have never come to the West. Like Cyberbots and Red Earth have never come to the West before, and Red Earth has never been released on a console before.
A couple Darkstalkers releases on there. Yeah,
5 of them.
But some of them have. I was saying that haven't come West, right? Or did all Darkstalkers make it West?
More or less. Well, see, the thing is that the Darkstalkers on that collection, they have Darkstalkers, Night Warriors, and then they have Vampire Hunter, which is the second one, and then Vampire Hunter 2, which is a slight update of that, and then there's Vampire Savior, which is the third game, and then there's Vampire Savior 2, which is another slight update of that one. So it's basically like hyper fighting versions. And I don't think individual versions of each of those have been released because the difference between the 2 hunters and the 2 saviors is so minor that normally you just do one or the other or combine them. So they're kind of padding the roster by having half of the 10 be vampire savior stuff or Nightwear Darkstalker stuff. But the other stuff is very exciting. The fact that they've got both the Gem Fighter and Puzzle Fighter 2, and they've got Red Earth, which is a very weird game. If you ever played Capcom Fighting Evolution and you wonder where that T-Rex came from, he's from Red Earth.
Okay.
It's kind of a fighting RPG, and has a weird first single player version mode, which is like a story mode boss rush, but like you have to like you level a character up as you fight, but then it's very weird. I don't fully understand how it works.
So you're telling me you're more excited about that collection than Street Fighter 6?
That has more stuff that's interesting. Yeah, because
Wow.
Street Fighter 6 is way further out, and then the collection's on like June 24th, which is probably about when we'll find out more about Street Fighter 6.
Yes, that's my guess.
But right
too.
now, it's just that. I don't know. Like, I hope Guile's in it, I guess, because he's my main character. I don't know. What am I supposed to be excited about? The story? I don't even know if there's going to be a story mode. The Street Fighter 5 didn't get a story mode for like a year.
I mean, have you just kind of uncovered the problem with Street Fighter at this point? Is it's hard to get excited for new ones anymore? Because...
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you're excited about that, the scene is so out of my range right now. It's like a very different thing. I don't really, the tournament scene sort of fell off in the lockdown because nobody could get together, although it's fun to watch online stuff, I guess. But like... it just changed a lot, and I'm not part of it anymore. And and then meanwhile you've got the pros who are sort of like, oh, like, yeah, I guess I got to learn a whole new game again. Not that Street Fighter 6 probably gonna be a whole re-education campaign, but like you got to learn all the nuance and ins and outs and split-second stuff. And it's just like,
do you think it's a mistake to cater the game too much towards esports players, though?
I don't think so, because who else is playing it? Like,
is that where we're at with fighting games, though? I mean, I think
it's where you're at with Street Fighter. I don't think it's where you're at with like something like Mortal Kombat or Injustice, because those things sell 10 million copies.
Right.
But
so what does Street Fighter have to do that?
I don't think it can.
Really? You don't think it's possible?
No.
Because people care a lot about the characters in Street Fighter.
They care about the characters as sort of avatars of fighting game. Nobody cares about the narrative of Street Fighter. Again, and even Capcom does. There's a lot less effort put into making Street Fighter's narrative make sense than Resident Evil's, and that's saying something.
I'll say this though: I didn't think I cared about the narrative behind Mortal Kombat's characters until they did it.
But that's basically the same narrative that's always been there. It's just told better.
Yeah.
Because the narrative of Mortal Kombat is Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
Like the narrative of Mortal Kombat is just every stupid kung fu movie we grew up watching with combined with ninjas and fantasy stuff and like it's a good idea. Street Fighter is like a bunch of people fight in the street.
That's pretty much
like what like
in
what
the
do you,
street.
And there's no way to like like why can Dalsim do that?
Yeah.
Like it's so weird. Like it doesn't because it's fun, because it's cool. It's just you don't need to think about it. And like well, as soon as they started in the in the 90s when Street Fighter blew up, like they started like trying to figure out how to fit all these weird things together and why Blanca was a thing and stuff, and it's just stupid. Like it doesn't matter. Like you can't develop all these characters in this. It's like that's the thing is like like the 90s Street Fighter anime. Like E Honda's just in it as like a random fighter in a pit fight at one point.
I have it actually on UMD for my PSP.
Yeah, and like that's cool and all, but it's like it doesn't hold the same weight as like in like Mortal Kombat, where like you see, like Reptile or Scorpion, and like it's a ninja. Like you get it. Like he's a ninja and he's a demon. He's a ninja and he's a lizard. He's a ninja and he has frost power. Like that's all you need for those characters, right? Like whereas like this is like, okay, he's a sumo. So what? Like sumos are real. Like you don't like there's nothing interesting about that. It's just a sumo guy. Whereas like Mortal Kombat's like, oh, that guy looks cool and it's gonna be different. Whereas like you make a Street Fighter character look too cool and they don't look like themselves anymore.
Yeah, and people complain.
Or they look like hot Daddy Ryu, and that becomes his standard outfit from now on.
How do you like that art style in Street Fighter 6? It's very realistic. Like I don't
sort
like
of,
it.
Sort of, but then when they go in for the fight, it kind of gets all watercolory like 4 and 5 have been. So I don't know.
Really?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. There's some graphical flourishes.
Yeah, they do like kind of the.
But usually what they show
in
these is what the game looks like. Because I remember people were like, "Oh, there's no way that the real game's going to have the ink thing in it," and then it did.
Yeah.
And these look way more realistic to me.
That does, but then like when they go into this, like it gets that kind of like I mean Ryu's thing there is like straight out of that Street Fighter 4 Sumi when he does the move and that goes like black and white ink, like that looks like the Sumi E look from 4 to me. Who knows? Like this probably are like we probably are looking at the character models here, like this is being made in the Resident Evil engine, And that does look like, I mean, he looks like Chris Redfield.
You're right. It also has the weird kind of texturing.
Yeah, it has that kind of plasticky look.
Yeah, when they showed the feet especially, I was like, oh.
Yeah,
I
like
don't
it
know
looked
about
just like
that.
the Resident Evil, it looks good, but you're also sort of like,
Yeah, there's something in the Resident Evil 2 also right there is feet.
Feet with a rope moving independently on the, I mean, that's good, but like, yeah, he's very shiny. And also the close-up looks very different.
Like, I don't know, his feet look like they're made of plastic.
Yeah, but like that's what that engine makes people look like.
It does. I don't know. I'm pretty nervous about this, to be honest.
I don't know. It probably can't be worse than 5's launch.
Well, it was a disaster.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's my question: is it going to be like a service thing again? Like, what's the?
I think someone in the chat, like, their number one thing they wanted for this was like good net code.
Yeah,
I totally understand.
Like
that.
actual roll, and that's the thing. That's the other thing I'm interested in that collection, because the collection's doing rollback net code. Like they're doing it right in that collection. Will they do it right in Street Fighter 6? Who fucking knows?
Because we don't know who's making it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we know a couple people in there, but they're not. Ono's gone.
Yeah,
Seth Killian's been gone forever.
Yeah.
I think Combo Fiend's still in there, but who knows? Like,
I don't know. Nothing about that teaser trailer excited me. I gotta put it that way.
No.
If the objective of a trailer,
you want me to be excited, you're gonna have to show me something more than Ryu and Luke.
Yeah.
Like this.
Someone I saw in chat said that Capcom had announced some time ago that Luke was supposed to be the whole focus of Street Fighter 6.
I mean,
I had not read that.
Apparently, every third game they make a horrible mistake and try to refocus on a character nobody cares about. I guess because that happened in 3 too.
It did.
So.
That's true. Yeah. So there you go. That's Street Fighter 6. That's all we have right now. We're supposed to get more information in the summertime. I think you're probably right, Matt. Around the time they released the collection.
Yeah. I mean, whatever Evo becomes, I think is when you're gonna find that out.
PlayStation Fighting Tournament is what it's going to become. Now PlayStation owns it.
And then I imagine Street Fighter 6 will have some kind of PlayStation
exclusivity
of some kind. Yeah, timed or
otherwise. I mean, wasn't it PS4 and PC when it first launched?
Yeah, I think so.
The last one? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Now it's time to talk about PlayStation VR 2. Sony finally revealed the first photographs of the new console I guess it's kind of a console, although it's not, which is really important actually.
No, it's a peripheral.
It's a peripheral, and it really is this time. There's no piece of hardware that comes with it, according to PlayStation. It said that it is a single cord connection to your PlayStation 5.
Well, now that they knew they were doing that when they built the PS5, they could plan for that. So,
and it looks remarkably similar to PlayStation VR 1. It just does. It obviously the controllers. The first one didn't even have its own controllers, so they're a big deal. And it sounds like the controllers themselves are going to be pretty freaking awesome. But the headset itself looks a lot like PlayStation VR 1. Is that a good idea or a bad idea, Matt?
I don't know. It looks pretty different to me. It doesn't have the blue on it.
Yeah. Well, it's not. Well, maybe we haven't seen it lit up yet.
It looks like that the face mask of that lawyer in Phoenix Wright.
It looks like a skateboard knee pad is what it looks like.
Oh, yeah, it does. I mean, for a very large knee.
Yeah, but I mean, it has those same kind of bolts in it, and it's shaped like and arched the same way. But it has that white band at the top like PlayStation VR 1 did. It looks very, very similar to the first one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, the design of that was pretty darn good. It's definitely the most comfortable of the headsets
it felt
used,
in that. And so I'll actually go through all the stuff
that headband
that PlayStation
works
said today. Yeah. I'll just go through the stuff that PlayStation announced today. You'll notice that the PSVR 2 headset is a similar shape to the first PlayStation VR. It also has a similar shape to PlayStation VR 2 Sense controller, taking on the matching orb. They call it the orb look. The circular orb shape represents a 360-degree view the players feel when they enter the virtual reality world, so this shape captures it nicely. The PS5 console has flat edges, as it is meant to be displayed on a flat surface. I did not know that. While there was more emphasis on adding roundness to the design of PlayStation VR 2 headset, since it is meant to have constant human contact, similar to the rounded edges of the DualSense controller and Pulse 3D headset. So all this stuff is...
Oh, shut up.
I know. Well, I mean, I think they did actually do this, Matt. Like,
they did it, but it's just so pretentious. And it's just like,
is.
you know what would be better? Games.
Yeah, it gets better, actually. We paid very close attention to the ergonomics of the headset, and this is what you're talking about, and conducted extensive testing to ensure a comfortable feel for a variety of head sizes. And I agree with you. PlayStation VR... very comfortable to have on your head.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We already had a lot of positive feedback on the ergonomics of the first PSVR headset by carefully balancing the headset weight and having a simple headband that can be adjustable, so we kept the same concept for PSVR 2. Other features such as a headset's adjustable scope that places the scope area closer or further away from the face. That's pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, the first one had that. The first one was the only headset I could fit my glasses into.
Yep.
Which was nice.
And right here it says it. That places the scope area closer or further away from the face, and placement of the stereophone head jack also remain the same, so players will be familiar with it. Here are the new features that they announced today. New features such as a lens adjustment dial, so users have an additional option to match the lens distance between their eyes to optimize their view. That's good.
Didn't they have that? They didn't have that in the first one.
No, they didn't. It's something
the Oculus and the Vive have had that forever.
Yep.
Vive had a really good one for that.
We also created a slimmer design with a slight weight reduction, which is interesting, even with new added features such as the new built-in motor for headset feedback. Don't forget.
Oh, I'm turning that shit
off. This
off.
HMD rattles. It has rumble.
No, not mine. I'm turning that off as soon as I don't need that. It's going to cause a sinus headache in 5 seconds.
Here's what's most important to me. Also has a new vent design. Because, man, when I wore PlayStation VR 1, I got hot and sweaty all the time. So it's good to hear that they've really focused on that to make it better, to get more air going through the helmet.
That is definitely a real problem.
Yep. And then as I mentioned,
especially when you pad it as much as because it was comfortable because it was padded, but also that made it hotter because everything was padded.
Yep, it did. It also has the tiny PlayStation symbols that the PlayStation 5 has, where if you look really closely at it, they're like just the texture of it is actually like X's and triangles and circles.
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm paying extra for that.
The headset matches that stuff. And just to bring you up to speed with
won't match yours because yours black now.
That's true, actually. Yeah. Actually, you're right. It won't match mine. Funny. And just to get you guys up to speed on the stuff that was announced before today, it is 4K HDR, enhanced tracking as inside-out camera tracking. It has new PlayStation VR 2 Sense technology, features such as headset feedback, and the new intuitive PSVR 2 Sense controller that creates an incredibly deep feeling of immersion. So that's the whole rundown on PlayStation VR 2 that we have right now. Is this going to sell, Matt?
No.
I don't think it will either.
I mean, it's going to be like $600.
I mean, it's probably going to sell about as well as the last one did.
Yeah, I think as long as their expectations are just this same, the first one again, it'd probably be fine. But it seems like a lot of effort for that.
It does. Do you think that there's a chance that there's more and better software this time? I think 4K HDR doesn't hurt.
No, but who's going to make that? Like, my problem with it is, like, who's going to put the money and effort into making that when you know that the sales ceiling is so low?
Right.
Like, Sony would have to fund it themselves, and we know how Sony rolls with that. They're going to make a first wave and like a second wave, and then it's going to slowly, they're just not going to talk about it again. I mean, my kind of hope is that we get a Half-Life Alyx port. If I were Sony, I would definitely be approaching Valve for that if Valve was open to that at all. Swanland makes a good point. Another way to make it valuable would be to make it compatible with PC, but they're not going to do that.
I had mentioned that a long time ago, but yeah, I don't think that'll ever happen. Maybe actually not never. Maybe in 6 years, whenever some of these games are coming out for PC.
Maybe they might sell a separate box for that.
That's true.
Or you could plug it in through. I mean, it's USB, right? You could probably just do it that way. I don't know. I mean, that would help if I could use it back and forth. That would be a bonus to me because that way I wouldn't have to pull the Vive. God, that Vive has been in storage for almost 5 years now. I never opened it again after I moved.
It would be interesting to see what the reactions are of the people who bought the first PlayStation VR, because mine is extremely negative. It made me ill, and I could hardly use it. I think if I added up all the hours I used my PlayStation VR, it's probably less than 20. And I spent like $500 or $600 for it.
I think I probably played closer to 50 because I played Robinson, The Journey, and Farpoint a fair amount.
For me, it was always play it until I get sick and then take it off and then lay on the couch feeling like I'm going to die for the next 45 minutes.
I don't get nauseous from it. Like, I play until I get bored or get too hot.
Right.
And usually hot was sooner than bored. But not always. Because also the other thing that would theoretically not be an issue on this is the load time on PlayStation VR. Especially like stuff like Iron Man. Like the last thing I played on, I think it was Iron Man. And there were times I just took it off and went to do something else until it loaded in, and then like I'd see on my TV screen as long as I put it back. And it's like, put your headset back on. I'm like, did you stop loading while I took my headset off? Because I got other things to do. But like that, so it's presumably that will not be an issue on PS5 because the load times on Horizon were so fast they had to slow it down so you could read the tooltips.
Yeah, it's really fast.
And I was kind of like, you know what, guys? I don't really need the tooltips. You could just make it load instantly. I'm just saying.
You should be able to turn it off at the very least.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that.
You can't. Actually, there is an option to turn that off, actually. I saw that in the options, like a tooltip delay thing.
I mean, really the biggest difference between PlayStation VR 1 and 2 is that on 1, the front faceplate is mostly black. Mm-hmm. You can see it there. And then, if I show you this one, you can see the difference.
I assume there'll be some kind of glowing thing on it when it's on.
Yeah. I'm not excited for it at all. I feel like the ship has kind of sailed on VR.
I mean, you'd have to show me a game that I just can't live without.
It has to be a killer app.
And I don't know what that would be at this point.
I mean, look, Half-Life Alyx didn't convince me to buy a $600 PC VR headset.
Like, if you put a port of Alyx
if
on
that
there,
didn't do it.
Like, if you put a port of Alyx on there, and, I mean, I guess the Horizon VR thing looks pretty cool. Yep. Like, that could draw me in. And then give me a third thing. Give me a third thing. I don't know what that would be.
Just something.
Actually, you know what my favorite thing on PSVR ended up being is that stupid Until Dawn Uncharted.
The carnival ride.
The carnival ride. Yeah. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah. It also made me sick, though.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I did suffer through that one for a while, though, because it was pretty fun. I enjoyed playing it. What do you guys think? Are any of you, now that we know pretty much everything about PlayStation VR?
Did they say a price? Did they say like?
Nope. That's the only thing left.
It has to be 500.
Price and release date is all that's left.
I'm saying 500. It's got to be. Okay. I think you're doubling the cost of the console.
So let's assume it's $500. Anyone in chat interested in picking it up? And if you are or are not, and you comment, let us know if you bought the first one or if you've ever owned VR before, because I think that's a kind of a line that we would draw in the sand. Now, Vincent says, you can't say the ship is veiled on VR overall, not with how well Quest 2 is doing. No, let's just talk about for me. Like, it sailed for me. I didn't say for everybody else. I have tons of friends who have Quest 2.
Yeah, but also the metaverse stuff is a red herring. Like the metaverse in like 2 months has gotten the same number of users that Second Life gets in 1 month.
If the metaverse happens...
Second Life is a 20-year-old thing.
No. The thing with the metaverse is only going to work if there's one.
Yeah.
If Sony has its own metaverse, and Nintendo has its own metaverse, and Microsoft has its own, and Epic has its own,
and also when you say metaverse, you're talking about Facebook, Meta.
Well, that's literally
when they want you to think that that's the universal thing. Then, like, if you're talking about Sony would plug into that somehow, I guess, but like that's never going to happen.
I mean, none of these companies are going to play into Facebook. No one's going to just give Facebook the metaverse.
Facebook, one of the reasons, I mean, there's a bunch of reasons why Facebook's value is dropping like a rock right now, but one of it is because like there's internally they're slowly realizing that this metaverse concept that Zuckerberg and his people sold them on is 10 years out.
Yeah.
Like there's no revenue stream there.
I mean, they only changed the name of Facebook because they had gotten into hot water and they wanted to rebrand.
There's that, but also they want metaverse to be when they want meta to be reference to that brand. You want to be able to control that word.
They want to own the metaverse.
Right.
And that's never going to happen.
No.
It's not.
No.
Nope.
Well, also, like, even the metaverse that exists right now in terms of whatever form they have for the Oculus, which is, I think, called something different now, but it still doesn't have the same amount of content on it that, like, PlayStation Home did.
Yeah.
And PlayStation Home really was the same idea.
It was.
When you think about it.
Second Life, I mean, there's been metaverses already.
I think bringing back a PlayStation VR version of PlayStation Home would not be a terrible idea.
It wouldn't be. Just a social space where you can hang out, watch movies.
See like weird exhibits and stuff. Like this.
Watch E3, stuff like that.
There's something there.
Yeah,
there's something there.
I agree. But I don't think it's going to be controlled by one company.
Never.
It's definitely not going to be controlled by Facebook.
Like the Ready Player One nonsense and the snow crash thing is just not in the cards. It's too fractured.
Gunzilla says no one didn't buy the first. For $500, better have some good games. Agreed. Mm-hmm. The last one really did not. Schneeky says not a feckin' hope. VR1 was a waste of money. I agree. I feel like I wasted my money, and I regret recommending it to people. I've said that a million times on GameFace that it's one of my biggest regrets of the last 5 years. Regal Vamp, it will fail to get mainstream appeal at $500. I mean, that's what it's going to cost, and I agree with you. But Arabis says, show me the games or GTFO. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Rafa, I bought the first one, and some of the games make me sick. Same here. And I like to go on the internet while playing, which is hard with VR.
True.
Johnny Hurricane says, I'll stick to Quest. AJ the Legend Watson, I'm a sucker, so I plan on picking this up. I still have hope for amazing VR experiences. All right, I appreciate your your attempt at staying positive.
I recognize the dedication.
Yep. The Big Smoke 82, my PlayStation VR made me sick just like you. I sold it, but it was fantastic. RE7 was terrifying. I will say this, like the moments that I managed to use it before I got violently sick, I really liked it. Mm-hmm. Like I've shown that Resident Evil demo where you're sitting in the chair.
Kitchen,
yeah, to everyone who comes over, and they're terrified. And they're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize VR was like this or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then like when they leave, they'll be like, what's like the best VR? And then I never hear from them again.
So here's the comparison, because when I played that, because I did play that on I think PSVR the first time. And when the scare part happened, I laughed. And I think my girlfriend was like, oh, what was funny? What were you playing? Like Resident Evil. Like horror does not work. That was like, but I liked you know why I liked Rush of Blood, the Until Dawn game, was because it gave me vertigo.
Oh,
and that didn't make me sick, but like I have like a height thing, and like it made me feel like I was up on this rickety roller coaster, like looking down on it, and it was effective.
I've had moments like that.
Horror stuff doesn't scare me.
The power
of
VR. Yeah.
And I actually thought of that when I played Iron Man. I'm like, oh, is Iron Man gonna give me like vertigo because you're flying all the time? No, it's not. It's not convincing enough for any of that.
Okay. But my guess is at least $500, and I hear you. That does make it very difficult because it's everyone's going to compare it to Oculus Quest 2, or now Meta Quest 2, is they're trying to rebrand
Meta Quest.
And everyone's going to compare it to that. And for $300, and it's wireless, and I get it, the graphics are a lot more simple on Oculus Quest 2. But
Sony wants it plugged to the.
But
PS5.
It's not just about the $500. It's about owning the PlayStation 5. That's $500. And then having to spend.
You're really talking about $1,000 VR system.
Yeah, and then finding the PS5. Like if we can't find a PS5, my guess is this is not going to come out until they can manufacture enough of them.
Yeah, or you're going to get like imagine $1,000 PS5 VR bundle.
And that's the only way you can get a PS5.
Yeah,
it might happen. It might get dirty like that. But anyway, it looks like most people.
And then $70 VR games.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that's rough. But it looks like most people agree with us. Like they're not that excited for it. Sony has a lot of selling to do.
Yeah, I don't
to get people on board with this thing.
I mean, I recognize that there's basically inertia here. Like they have to follow up on their first. They put too much R&D into it. They put too much money. There's a sunk cost element here.
Yeah.
And they have to adhere to the brand. They can't do a standalone thing that's a separate pillar. And they've learned that separate pillars are bad ideas, Vita. But like, this feels doomed.
It does. I know. I feel that way already.
I mean, it's
like, would you buy a Oculus Quest 2 or this?
I mean, if I had to buy one, I'd buy an Oculus Quest 2 because it's wireless.
Me too. Yeah.
Because it's easier.
That's what I feel like all along about this. I feel like they need to make it wireless.
You need to make it easy. You need to make, because wanting to play, at least for me, wanting to play VR stuff tends to be an impulse.
Yeah.
And if it takes too long to set up that I no longer have that impulse, I'm not going to do it. If I think about there's a concept in board gaming called certain games are hard to get to the table because they're so long to set up. There's so much stuff in them, and you have to open everything and set everything up. And by the time you've done that, like 40 minutes have passed, and nobody wants to play anymore.
Everyone loses their motivation to play.
Like VR, I think VR has that problem too.
Oh, I'd agree. Yeah, people, you show it to them and they're like, oh, that's exciting. And then you spend the next like 20 minutes like milling around and you're like tightening the helm, and they lose interest in it.
And then but like the Quest goes a decent distance towards solving that.
Here's another thing for me. As someone right now, I just had knee surgery. I'm trying to find things that I can do to get into shape. I got a bike, that's great, but I need to do more. I look at VR as a workout tool.
Yeah,
like big time.
It could be.
Like sure. My big goal for this holiday season when I asked for gifts was like, I want to ask for stuff that I can use to get into shape. So I asked for a bike and like a helmet and all the stuff that comes with that. And I asked for an Oculus Quest 2, which I didn't get. But the reason I asked for it was because I wanted to use it for fitness. Yeah. I just want
Beat Saber is a legit workout.
A lot of games are. And when it's wired, that takes away from that. You don't have the freeform to exercise like you would with the Quest 2. So there's all these different angles that I think people are shopping VR for, and I don't know that PlayStation VR 2 checks a lot of the boxes that people have on their cards. I just don't think it does. So
like, we'll see how freeform the cable is.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, certainly it sounds like it's going to be easier to deal with than the cable on the first one. But you're still dealing with sort of.
Well, you can see here it's
just a little USB cable,
thin.
more or less.
Yeah.
That's fine. But like the other problem is like, I wonder what it's going to use. Is it still going to use the PlayStation camera, or is it going to be self-contained?
I don't think. I think it doesn't need a camera.
I hope, because I'll tell you what actually solved the problem with the Vive. Is the fact that because it had sensors in the ceiling, that I had to drill holes in the wall for
and install.
But you could play it with your back to the PC.
Yeah,
that was the that was the key. It was like
with this one,
because the cables just go straight to the machine behind you, and you never have to really worry about them. Whereas with PlayStation VR, the cable goes to the system and has to curl around behind you and into the back of your head.
Well, the
and
camera
that
also
was
has
always
to
awkward.
see the front with the blue lights to track your head direction. So the
so
technology is going to be way
you
better.
You let me face away from the TV wearing this thing, so like the cable just like goes back behind me into the PlayStation.
You should be able to,
and I think that's good. That's fine. That doesn't mean I got to move my couch.
I would still prefer to have
that would be
unwired.
Better. Yeah, but like
because you also got to realize
you were never getting that from Sony.
It lets you play it wherever you want.
Right,
like
but Sony doesn't
you don't have
want
to be anywhere near the
Sony
TV.
Doesn't want you to play it wherever you want.
Right.
They want you to play it with your PlayStation 5.
Right.
Like it's like you're stuck in the ecosystem with this one. Like they don't have a choice because otherwise you're creating another Vita.
AJ the Legend watched and recommends Ring Fit Adventure to get in shape. I tried it. I hated it. I didn't hate the game. I thought it was okay, and I thought it was clever. As a workout tool, I didn't like it at all. Like I hated using that stupid like band as like the workout
Also,
tool.
Swanland makes a good point that Ring Fit Adventure is hard on the knees.
Yeah, and I'm just coming off of surgery. Like my knee still
Ring Fit, I think, is a little too high impact for
my knee. Still isn't great. I'll be honest with you. I'm wondering if like my surgery, like the surgeon screwed up my knee a little bit. Like it's supposed to be a 4 to 6 week recovery. I'm at like month 3, and I still have pain and swelling in my knee. So
I mean, it happens. Like you never know, and everybody's body reacts differently to these things, especially as you age. Like I mean, I had that bladder surgery in 2018.
Yeah,
I didn't feel normal wearing a belt for a year
really?
After that. Like it can take a while. Especially internal shit.
I'm a little worried about it, but I got other things to worry about right now, like finding another place to do our damn show. So
yeah, just keep using it. Is really
I got a bike and I've been riding it. So
obviously, I did not have a choice. You got to use your bladder. So
exactly. So anyway, that's the latest update on PlayStation VR 2. We probably won't talk about it again until we start seeing legit software rolling in. And then we'll talk about it again once we get the price. And
I'm just trying to imagine what software could really sway me.
Ignite me.
Because the only thing for sure is that Horizon thing.
Yeah.
Because Alex is a question mark and everything else is theoretical. Like, I don't know what you could throw at me.
They need to do more of that. They need to create more VR IP based upon their existing IP. God of War in VR, even if it's like 8 hours long, I'd play it.
Yeah, even if you just like do a recreation of like talking to that giant snake. Like, I'll play that.
Yeah, it's just terrifying. There's something to VR. I don't want to completely write it off. So I think Vincent was right.
Oh no, like there's some cool stuff in VR. It's just the barrier of entry for Sony's VR is
too extreme,
and it's just too easy to if you have it for PC, it's different because it's a little more freeform. You can use it for various things. You're not locked into Steam. You're not locked into you can play other things. You just look at the websites on it if you just want to feel like you're in some kind of like weird anime or whatever, and like looking at like a movie screen sized Internet Explorer window or something. I did that a couple times. That was just annoying.
Yeah.
It's like it's cool, but also like I'm reading websites. I don't want to have to look up and down.
Yeah.
But like and like Oculus Quest kind of like makes it a little more free form. But again, the setup is the issue. The ability to just jump into it. Like that's why I think the VR centers are popular because you go in, you pay your money, they strap a thing on your head, you play the thing, you go home.
You don't have to worry about all this crap at your house and
you don't have to set anything up. You don't.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, that's what I should get for $500 is a little Astro robot who sets it up for me.
For that much money, not that far out of the question. All right, time to move on. We got a bunch of stuff to get to. We have a lot of topics still left in this episode, and not much time to get to them. Although I do think most of these topics are not going to last all that long as far as discussion is concerned. Next up, we're going to talk about the Halo TV show. We've talked about it briefly in the show before, but we found a new nugget about it this week. And I think some people might be a little upset about this, or maybe not. It was revealed by 343 Industries, no less, that the Halo TV show, which has already been signed for a second season, before the first season even debuts, which, is that common? Doesn't seem
These
like
days,
it.
yes.
Yeah?
More and more, like as soon as the
social media response is enough?
No, it's usually as soon as the execs in charge see the show. If they like what they see, they will greenlight more because they want more ready to go as soon as possible. Wheel of Time got a season 2 and 3 greenlit before it ever went up. Like, it's pretty common now.
Okay. So
especially with Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon does that.
Well, Halo's TV show has been renewed for a second season on Paramount Plus before it even debuts. And 343 shared a little tidbit this week that apparently the TV show is going to unmask Master Chief and show his face.
We saw a little bit, like you see his helmet come off in the trailer, and
but we've seen his helmet come off in the games too.
Sure, but I'm just like, there's no way they're gonna not show the main character's face in this, because people who don't play games are gonna be like, why the hell aren't they showing the guy's face? Like, it's just not gonna happen. So he's gonna be a pale white dude who just looks like a normal person. Like that. We know what his face looks like, more or less.
Why do they wait, though? I mean, so they wait all this time, 20 years basically at this point. They've been waiting to unveil Master Chief's face. They teased it in the games a couple different times and then never did it. Why all of a sudden are they like, okay, we have this TV show that may or may not be a hit, and we're going to basically reveal one of the biggest reveals in franchise history for our fans in this TV show?
Because they want the TV show to be a breakout beyond people who play the games, and people who don't play the games are not going to understand why they're not showing you the main character's face.
Okay, that's actually what I want to kind of discuss, is the idea of not showing someone's face or hiding behind a mask, or like I think back to my childhood with Kiss. Would I have cared about Kiss if Kiss were just them? Paul Stanley, and seriously though, and Gene Simmons and Peter Criss and Ace Frehley.
It's part of the presentation.
I would not have.
No.
But because
it would have just been another band.
Right. And I was like 4 or 5. I was so young. Like, I don't even think I was that old, honestly, when Kiss was like huge. So there's a charm, I think, to hiding the identity. There's some DJs like Marshmello.
But even Kiss, at least, Daft Punk, I guess, does
Daft Punk.
But also, I've seen Daft Punk's face. They're just French guys.
Well, they used to be just DJs.
Yeah.
And so people who are in the scene, like I've been since like the early 90s, we know what Daft Punk looks like. But my mom doesn't know what Daft Punk looks like.
I guess my response to this is just like, who cares? Like, I mean, I don't even know why Master Chief's face has been such a big deal. I mean, part of it, I guess, because early on they didn't want to like lock him down to one ethnicity or one appearance or whatever, because they wanted everyone to just think they were him. It was more of like, you can identify with him easier if it's just a voice and a helmet, which I guess, and it also kind of tied in the multiplayer where everybody's running around as sort of a clone as a Spartan. Eventually became, I think they're Spartan 3s now, so they're not him, but like, like, I guess. And then at a certain point, it just became kind of a meme, it just sort of became a running gag that, like, they just don't reveal his face. And there was that one end of 4 or something, where they sort of raised it was 4 or 5, where they sort of raise it. You see, like, his chin or something, and then it cuts out.
Yeah, they've been teasing that stuff for forever.
But the real answer is he's a bald white guy.
Yeah, he's a guy, he's a white dude with a shaved head.
Yeah, who cares? He's a bald white guy who hasn't been in the sun in forever. Like, that's it. Like, and so, like, like he's gonna look like the guys from Prometheus, and that's the end of it. Like, what? I mean, it's a big deal, I guess, in the sense that like they've never done it before, but in the same way, there's no reason not to do it, because there's nothing special about him. It's sort of like Boba Fett. It's like he took the helmet off, and it's just Tamora Morrison.
Well, it just becomes a thing. Yeah. I mean, once you deprive someone of something, then they just want it all the more.
Well, I think that's part of the logic here of taking his helmet off in the show, is like, if you don't do it in the show, then it becomes a thing to the new people. And like, the problem
maybe they're tired of the thing.
Well, no, but the problem of it becoming a thing is like, there's nothing there. Is no there there. So like, if you make it a big deal to unveil his face to non-game fans, when you do, there's like, that's just a bald guy. Like, who cares? Like there's nothing to it. It's just because it's kind of a running joke
about Kiss. They just wore makeup, and still people were obsessed with what they looked like without their makeup on.
Yeah, but the makeup like kind of fit with the style and everything.
Like, I even remember back then, the makeup, like, the National Enquirer had like an artist come in and draw what Kiss's face would look like without the makeup on. Like, it was a huge thing. Right. Why do you think it gets big sometimes with people?
I mean, part of it's just because we don't like not being shown something.
The mystery.
We're like, why are you hiding it? Like, what's the problem? Like, that's why are you wearing a mask? It's like the Spider-Man thing with J.
Well, Samus was like that for a while with Metroid.
Well, she took her helmet off in the first game.
Yeah, but I mean, all you knew is she was just a blonde girl.
Blonde woman, yeah. They weren't really hiding.
But remember, like in Metroid Prime, it was such a big deal that when like the light would flash off her face, you could see her face inside the helmet for like that brief second, and people were taking like freeze frames so you could see her face. Like there's something about it.
But part of that was just because it was an impressive tech trick.
Yeah.
Everybody knew what. I mean, there's been art of Samus without the helmet on forever.
Like official art from.
Yeah, in the instruction booklet of Metroid 1, there's
really?
pictures. There's diagrams of her outside of the armor. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or Super Metroid. It's in Super Metroid. But there was art outside of the game that, like, certainly
that wasn't
art
fan
and stuff.
Art.
That was not fan. Yeah, there was official pictures of her.
Interesting.
In fact, I think those old official pictures is where the beauty mark comes from.
Well, there's also that show now.
They've never been able to decide how she fits in the armor. But she's always looked. She's always more or less looked the same.
There's the show Masked Singer that's built on this whole premise. Like, there's something about it in pop culture that
it's
gets
a guessing
people...
speculation game. Yeah. The problem with the Master Chief thing is that it's not interesting.
Right, because what's underneath, he's just a grunt.
He's just a guy.
He's just a military dude. Yeah, it's interesting.
He's a superhuman guy, but he's just a guy. Like, it's not
honestly, I don't really care, but I do know that fans are probably going to care and probably would prefer that it happened inside a game instead of some TV show that may or may not be good.
Well, also, the TV show isn't canon. So it's not. It's a different continuity. It's not retelling the game story. It's just inspired by the games. I don't think it matters. I'm sure there will be controversy over, but I think most of the controversy will be from people who don't know Halo very well, being like, "Wait, why was that a big deal? He's just a dude."
JM Rain says, "I hope Master Chief looks like Urkel." I mean, could be crazy. They could do something extreme like that.
Master Chief's got you got any cheese? It's like Master Cheese. That'll be the title of that episode.
Sneaky says, "I kind of wish I never saw Mando." Yeah.
I kind of love that though, because like I love the way Pedro Pascal plays that, because he's such a badass in the armor, because usually he's John Wayne's grandson in the armor. But when he takes the helmet off, like he plays him very intentionally as like very awkward, and like he has trouble making eye contact with people. Like he's very clearly someone who never takes that helmet off, and has a lot of trouble looking at faces and having people. And like it plays really well, and like it's a good character moment, because his face doesn't have to be interesting. It has to be like, he took it off to say goodbye to Grogu, and like you see that human moment there, and it's enhanced by the fact that he did that, and by the fact that he was able to look at this other character that means so much to him and have this moment, and like, so there's a reason that's there, like that's why that's there, to make that a big deal, and so it works. Like Pedro Pascal doesn't have to look different or unusual to pull that off. Although I know it's just because that's how Pedro Pascal rolls in real life, but like, if you always have a helmet on and you are never to take that helmet off ever, why do you have the mustache?
I don't know.
Because that's uncomfortable.
Because no one will ever see it.
Right.
Yeah.
No one will ever see it. It's just for you.
That is a good question. One I never would have thought of.
And it's purely because then you're not going to make Pedro Pascal shave his mustache to be in the fucking show.
Like, the chat's funny today. Cinetyke says it was Jeff Bezos all along. Master Jeff.
I'm waiting for Jeff Bezos to show up as like Sauron in the Lord of the Rings show.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
here's a really good point from one Super Master Gamer. If the Mandalorian can work 90% of the time with a mask, I think they can make it work for Master Chief.
And I think they are. I think he's never going to have his helmet off, except maybe one time when they go to repair him or something.
Also, you think it'll be like Mando, like where
he has the mask on? He's got that mask on 95% of the show. Absolutely.
Okay, gotcha.
I have no doubt of that.
Okay.
The unmasking will purely be like maybe in the first episode or something, like just to show
get it over with,
just to show non-gaming, because part of it show non-gaming audiences that there's a person under there,
right?
It's not a robot.
Yeah, because you're right, they may wonder,
because there was speculation about that when Halo first came out,
and it is new canon.
Yeah,
with this series,
like you want to establish that that's a person in there.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep, you guys are funny today in chat. Good job. Okay, let's move on. We're gonna talk next about Starfield. And this week, they're slowly revealing stuff for Starfield at this point. Not
encouraging. Might actually happen.
Honestly, it's not that encouraging. Like, they just put out a developer doc, and it was literally
it's encouraging that they're
showing something. Yeah. And it was one of their artists just doing a drawing from the game. And then they did a little mini press tour where they talked to some outlets. The artists did. And Xbox Wire did an interview with the artists, and they explained that the art style in Starfield they are calling NASA punk. some kind of a spin on steampunk.
Well, everything is something punk at this point.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, when do we get to the point where this just becomes absurd?
All right, well, we've been there for a long time, and let me explain to you the punk thing then. Not the punk music thing, but so it doesn't.
I've got that part covered.
Yeah, it doesn't come from steampunk; it comes from cyberpunk. Steampunk comes from cyberpunk. Mm-hmm. Now, the purpose of cyberpunk, and this is something that people maybe don't always get, the punk part is more important than the cyber part. Because cyber is just identified as like kind of sci-fi stuff, right? The punk part is the key. So, like a lot of people think of Blade Runner as cyberpunk. Blade Runner isn't cyberpunk, really. It's future noir. It codified the look of what we think of as cyberpunk, and certainly William Gibson, who was writing Neuromancer at the time, which is kind of the novel that started cyberpunk as a genre. He went and saw Blade Runner while he was writing Neuromancer and was like, oh my God, they did my book already that I'm writing right now. Like he like had a minor breakdown in the theater because he was like, oh my God, this is what I'm writing.
Oh, geez.
And so like he still went home and finished it anyway. It was very different in the end. But what like Philip K. Dick did and stuff was called new wave sci-fi. The difference with cyberpunk is new wave had the kind of the dystopian angle and like people caught up in the system and like Total Recall is Philip K. Dick, Blade Runner, Philip K. Dick, that's what you're talking about there. Cyberpunk very specifically established the idea of the protagonist or the main characters being a counterculture movement, of fighting against that, of rebelling against it, of refusing to fit into the dystopia. That's where the punk comes from. So the punk is very important to cyberpunk. The trick is that after people started to describe other aesthetic settings with the punk, like steampunk, the punk thing basically disappeared. Punk is not important to steampunk. Steam is important to steampunk.
That's a good
It's
point.
just an aesthetic.
Yeah.
If you look at any steampunk short story or novel, there's very little about the steam setting that matters. There's very little about punk that matters. It's just cyberpunk was edgy and techie and body horror, and so steampunk is like that, but with steam. That's it.
Which makes no sense whatsoever.
So NASA punk, what he's using this to mean is basically we're taking old style NASA design, that kind of like sterile sort of like, almost 70s style sort of like white and tan and gray, and we are turning that into sort of Jimmy rigged, like kind of fused it together ourselves. So it actually, because that video, what the art style reminds me of, Space Mountain. At Disneyland, because it's not real space stuff.
It's like 80s space.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
like not real space stuff, but it's kind of like a speculative space
like
stuff from like a bygone time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas like if you want to get into the weird stuff about like various forms of punk, you've got diesel punk, which is like industrial stuff, things that run on gas engines. My favorite, you want to know my favorite punk thing? Hope punk. Hope punk is basically dystopian fiction with basically a positive outlook, because in dystopian fiction the most punk thing you can do is be optimistic. Hope punk is basically cyberpunk that thinks everything's going to turn out okay. That is a real subgenre.
Look at this trailer though, Matt. What about any of this says any of that? Like, I don't understand where they're getting, because their quotes were like, as soon as our lead art director came up with it, we all knew exactly what he was talking about.
So freeze it on this thing.
On this or the one before?
On this, that what you're looking at right now.
Okay.
It's this like the white wall with photos stuck to it. It's the telemetry on the thing just sort of lined up on the paper, just sort of stuck on the wall because that's where you need to read it. It's the tiny little door there that is just big enough to be the thing you need to do what you need it to do, but not big enough that it's luxurious. It's the thing where it's like everything is just what it needs to do to function, and kind of has that sort of like white bolted together look. But it's like it looks like a 60s space capsule kind of. That's what they're going for. I don't know if they're fully getting there, especially because one of the other things they've directly compared to Starfield aesthetic to is like having your own Millennium Falcon, which is a completely different idea.
Yeah, that's completely different.
I think what they're really after here is like they're after sort of a 70s extrapolation of space travel.
If the 70s.
Because look at that, like with the kind of the quilted back on the chair there, and like
it looks like it's set when they walked on the moon, basically.
Right, and the panel up on top is like those are actual lights, not an LED kind of. You're not going to have like the Star Trek J.J. Abrams like mid-air holographic touch stuff. I think that's where they're going. They're looking for switches you actually flip.
Yeah, I just don't get where the punk part of it comes
in.
The
punk thing means nothing. That's all it is.
It's just should be called like it's just 70s NASA art style.
Right, but like what I'm saying is like they're coming from the what I'm saying is like it's like hope punk. What I just described to you is coming from the legit cyberpunk tradition, where like the punk part, the counterculture part is an important element of what defines this. Whereas NASA punk, the way they're using it, is coming from the steampunk version, which is just like it's got lots of gears and steam in it, and we use punk because it's a cool word.
Yeah,
like it's pure aesthetics. It's not doesn't mean anything. It's like you stuck a bunch of gears on your boot and called it steampunk. You stuck a bunch of old switches on the console and called it NASA punk.
By the way, I just noticed for the first time this shot right here. There's like a creature or a robot walking outside the ship right there.
It's like a little.
I never noticed that before. See it on the right-hand side there.
Yeah, it's like a little.
There it goes.
Little like drone walker thing.
Huh. That's what happens when you freeze.
And like stuff like this, where it's like you see the
leaking
coming, the condensation and like the dirty, and
it feels like punk.
It's all white and it's got like it's not, there's no it's not done up like with colors and like nose art and stuff like that. It feels almost corporate.
It feels like the punk to me. It means dirty.
Kind of, yeah. Like punk just mean in like a steampunk or diesel punk set, it just means like used.
Yeah.
Like it's from the street.
Yeah.
But there is no street because you're on the moon.
Like if your art director came to you and said, "Our game's NASA punk," would you know immediately what that means?
I would have an idea. Yeah. I would figure it was using kind of like tan and white bulkheads and like big
the quilting
mission control Billy Bob Thornton in Apollo 13 with the switches and mission control, so like
monochromatic
that kind of
screens inside,
maybe a little like Alien.
Yeah,
like Alien has a little NASA punk to it, I guess. Yeah. If you insist on using that stupid term,
I hate even saying it. Fire Native brings up a good point.
But it's not.
But punk means against something generally.
Right.
It means you're revolting.
I don't see a punk here yet.
I don't either.
We don't know much about the story, so maybe there is. Maybe you are part of a rogue space agency or something. I don't know.
It's true. It could be true.
But like, if there, maybe so. I mean, if you're like a rogue space exploration company. Up against like maybe there's a military empire around or something, then you're sort of like trying to get under the radar. That would be punk, but also but NASA punk seems to be being used to describe an aesthetic, purely an aesthetic, which is just I think what you're right. It just means dirty.
Okay.
It just means like street level or used or cobbled together, that kind of thing.
Okay, so there you go. Starfield. NASA punk explained.
It's a real dumb term. It's a real dumb. I mean, I'm not a fan of blank punk stuff anyway to just describe an aesthetic because cyberpunk means something, and I do like cyberpunk stuff. And like I complained about that when Cyberpunk came out. Was like, there's not really a lot of punk in that game because you are working for the cops about half the time. Like, Cyberpunk 2077 is very much a specific version of what Cyberpunk was aesthetically in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really work for me anymore. Whereas,
what they should have
but
done
NASA Punk is along the same lines.
What they should have done is they should have made a game about G.G. Allen on the space shuttle.
There you go.
They would have NASA Punk. By the way, do not Google G.G. Allen. I didn't say that. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about Nintendo pulling the cord on the Wii U and the 3DS eShop. And I'm just going to say right off the top, I think this is idiotic. And I have no idea why they would ever do this in a million years.
I was a little surprised the Wii U was still up, actually.
I mean, I admit it's basically a dead platform. But even with a dead platform, there's very little reason to take down a store. Why is Nintendo doing this, Matt?
I mean, I guess so they don't have to deal with it anymore.
Like
it's just
deal with it, meaning like hire two people to like watch the database and upload stuff.
There's a little more than two people if you're dealing with like transactions.
Yeah,
it's notable that they are shutting down the ability to add money to it a year almost before they shut the actual store down.
Yeah, because they want to clear the decks of all the
revenue. They don't want to
deal
with giving people money back or dealing with store credit or anything like that. Yeah, they're dealing with that.
Yeah, here's the details for those of you who don't know already. The Wii U and 3DS eShop sales are ending in late March of 2023, but payment options are being gradually disabled, as Matt said, along the way. You'll be able to add funds through a Switch and use them through the end date of when things are on sale, so March 2023. So you could put money on your Switch and then spend that money to buy 3DS and Wii U stuff on the store until March 2023. The store itself remains live for the foreseeable future to download previous content, but the end of new purchases is coming pretty quickly. As of late March 2023, it will no longer be possible to make purchases in Nintendo eShop for Wii U and 3DS. It will also no longer be able to download free content, including game demos. As it draws closer, relative services will cease to function. So as of August 29th of this year, it will no longer be possible to use a Nintendo eShop card to add funds to an account in Nintendo eShop on Wii U or the 3DS. However, it will still be possible to redeem download codes until late March 2023. So if you have any 3DS download codes lying around, I think I might actually have some lying around. If you have any of those, it's time to input them and get them. As of May 23rd, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a credit card to add funds to an account in the Nintendo eShop on Wii U or 3DS. So May 23rd coming up really quickly. You cannot add any more money on your Wii U or your 3DS. Finally, users who link their Nintendo Network ID wallet, and this gets very complicated, used with Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS, with their Nintendo account wallet, used with the Nintendo Switch, you can use the shared balance to purchase content on any of these systems until late March 2023. After that, the balance can only be used to purchase content on the Switch. Even after late March 2023 and for the foreseeable future, it will still be possible to, this is important, to re-download games and downloadable content, receive software updates, and enjoy online play. But it doesn't say how long that's going to last, as far as being able to go download the games that you've already paid for. That's what makes people nervous about buying things on digital marketplaces.
Mm-hmm. Now, to be fair, I can't think of anything else I'd want to buy and download on the Wii U.
I'll be honest with you. I was like trying to put together a montage of Wii U stuff, and I was like, there isn't one.
Yeah.
The 3DS, on the other hand, holy moly, did it have some amazing games for what it was.
Like, but I think I do have everything I have digitally on both of those systems already installed. Like, there just wasn't that much. My 3DS library is all physical.
I have a huge 3DS library, both physical and digital, because I would buy stuff myself, and then Nintendo would just send me download codes.
And I mean, you're looking at part of the problem here is like you are looking at the downside of not being able to bring your library forward with you.
Right.
Like, this is not going to be a problem for like the PS4 because you're going to be able to play everything on your PS5.
Yeah.
Like, not that I expect them to shut down the PS4, because it's notable that like Sony tried to do this with the PSP, the Vita. And everybody yelled at them, and they're like, okay, fine, we'll just leave it there. Nintendo is probably not going to respond that way.
Well, Nintendo
does what they want.
Well, here's the thing, though. Sony's was much more imminent. So fans had a sense of emergency, alert. They're like, oh, my gosh, this is going to happen soon. Like, that can't happen. I need to complain. Nintendo's smart. It's like, you know what? We're not doing this till March 2023. So everybody just forget about it. I do have a feeling when February of next year gets here, though, and people start mentioning, hey, this is going away, I think that's when you might see sort of the big fan, like, outrage. And
yeah, but then they'll be like, well, we told you a year ago. They'll
sign a petition and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but Nintendo doesn't respond to things like that.
Very rarely. Yeah. I mean, there was one game, wasn't it Xenoblade, that they brought to the West after petitions, and then no one bought it?
The only reason that happened was because it had already come out in Europe, and there was an English translation and dub existing, and they made the deal that then Reggie finally basically capitulated and made it, and then complained they didn't sell enough because they made it a GameStop exclusive.
Vincent did mention, for reference, the Wii Shop is still up to re-download stuff. So Nintendo has left those servers up for a good while after
being able to reinstall and get patches and stuff, that has never gone away for the Wii. Even all these years later. And probably won't.
You don't think it ever will?
I don't see how you could. I mean, why would you?
I mean, I don't know why you would take the stores down.
Because the store requires administration work.
So little, though.
It's not little.
Because the overflow.
You need a fleet of people to kind of deal with that, both in terms of IT and in terms of customer service. If you get rid of customer service,
there's a ton of overlap between those stores and what they're doing with Switch.
Well, with the 3DS, I think the 3DS.
Like your IT team.
I think the 3DS complaint is more valid than the Wii U. Shut the Wii U thing down. Who cares? Like, it's over. Like, the only thing I would say you need to do is basically save Xenoblade Chronicles X from it. And
if there's any game that you can only get on Wii U, and there aren't many left, if there are any games that are left, you should continue to support those. But
they will. Like, you're still going to be able to download them and install patches and stuff. Like, they're not getting rid of that. This is
I don't even know why they would not continue to sell them. Like, it's free money.
Because it's not free money, because they're spending stuff on maintaining that store and even those licenses that they need to have to be able to do business on those platforms. Shutting that down gets rid of a whole bunch of administrative glut. At least for the Wii U. 3DS feels like it's so recent and still... Aren't they still selling 3DSs now?
They stopped manufacturing them like over a year ago.
Yeah, well, that still feels pretty recent.
They're gone. Yeah,
because you're still looking at probably some stock in some stores, places. So
for sure.
I think shutting. I mean, probably not by next year, but like it just feels a little early for the 3DS.
Yeah.
The Wii U, like.
I don't know if it ever could have been too early for the Wii U.
No, probably not. I mean, but that's also why I keep talking about like I would like to see anything exclusive there or the PS3 to save it, because like get it off there so it's not trapped there forever. Mm-hmm. It's it's too bad. I mean, but like there's not a whole lot left on the Wii U that you can't just get for the Switch now.
Yeah, I mean they've basically brought everything over.
You put those HD Zelda games on there, and you put Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I guess Devil's Third for the masochists, and you're kind of done.
Here's one, Pokken Tournament.
Oh yeah,
Pokken Tournament. I don't know, but I know that this game hasn't made it over to Switch yet.
Yeah,
it may be on the way. There's Pikmin 3.
Pikmin 3's available somewhere else.
Not up for Switch.
No. What is with the Switch not getting Pikmin?
I don't know. Especially when they say Pikmin 4's been done for like 5 years. Yeah. I don't get it. So there are a couple things, but for the most part,
breaking news.
Not so much. Oh, we got breaking news.
Schreier.
We got breaking news live on GameFace.
Threadzilla says Call of Duty skipping a year.
Here we go. Straight out of our chat. Breaking news. Schreier report just broke. Call of Duty skipping 1 year, delaying 2023's game.
Yeah, Pikmin 3 is on Switch.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I thought so.
I think I maybe gave that code to Vincent.
And Pokken,
that's why I forgot.
Pokken did make it to Switch.
Pokken, it says Pokken is on Switch too.
Pokken Tournament, yeah. I thought they brought that forward with like an extra character or something. And I was like, oh, maybe no, I don't care. It's $60.
Okay.
I would be interested in stuff like that if they came to the Switch on a lower price point, but they tend to not.
Yeah. Threadzilla, thank you for the report on Schreier. Actually, someone else I think said it earlier. Or did they?
Is that the first year COD has missed since like 2007?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder if that's some way for Microsoft to get around something.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be a contract that says 2023 is going to have a COD game, but what did I tell you?
Huh.
Those contracts better be real specific.
Wow. Microsoft takes over, or maybe one of the games is just in bad shape. It may be.
That's right. Walmart had that error where they gave Pokken was the price of the DLC. It was like $9 for the whole game.
Was €60 more than the Wii U version? Huh. Interesting. So I guess really there is nothing left on Wii U.
No, there's
really nothing.
There's just Xenoblade Chronicles X really of stuff that's worth playing.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see the Zelda HD, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker come forward, but it's not like those are going to vanish if the Wii U goes away.
Yeah. So you're right. Like, it's a very weak argument for Wii U, but I feel like with 3DS.
3DS is a different beast.
It also has a gigantic library.
Yeah, I feel like you could give 3DS a few more years.
Yeah.
And like.
I mean, there's tons of people still playing 3DS.
Yeah.
Like, I have a bunch of relatives that still carry their 3DS
you're going to shut down the DSi, sure. Yeah. But like the 3DS, like.
The DSi, that was I don't think
that was a weird.
It was a
bridge,
weird half step. Yeah, bridge console or whatever. Yep. Sneaky says Yoshi's Woolly World never made it. I had no idea Sneaky was such a Nintendo fan. It's coming out in the wash now, though. He's a big Nintendo guy.
Or maybe he just Googled it.
No, maybe that's true. Some of the stuff he's been putting in chat, though, I'm like, oh, you must be a Nintendo guy.
But he never heard of the Oculus Quest 2.
Yeah, that's right. Scorpio's Finest is saying not even Warzone. Well, no, because Warzone's ongoing. So most people are saying, actually, he's right, because the new Warzone is supposed to launch like next year, I believe. Or no, Warzone 2's this year. Warzone 2's this holiday season. So it will just keep living on for next year. They don't release a new Warzone every year. They'll update it. So a full platform change is coming this year. And then they'll just keep building on that with subsequent releases. So Warzone should be fine. Everything else related to Call of Duty, though, looks like it's getting pressed on pause.
The last story.
What'd you say?
Was it Evil? Is it Evil? What's his name? Evil Oni. 5, and everyone's talking about saving Wii U games, but Last Story is trapped on the Wii.
Oh, yeah, that actually is a good point.
I have 2 copies of that. I think maybe I have 3. Well, I can't remember. I can't remember his Last Story or what was the other one? Remnant something? Was it
Remnant of the Ashes or something?
No, it's the other Wii JRPG thing that came out near the end of its life. It was
Cave Story?
No, it was Last Story, and there was like Remnant something, Revenant something.
I don't remember.
I have one of those signed by Sakaguchi, and I can't remember which one. Pandora Tower. That's it.
Yeah, I would never have remembered that.
I have one of those signed by Sakaguchi. I think Last Story. I can't remember which one he made. I don't know. All those weird titles blend together. But it's all infinite undiscovery to me.
Skeetlejuice taking a stab at Sneaky with his modded 3DS and jailbroken Switch, not buying a single game. Yeah, what a fan/expert.
Damn.
I don't even know if that's true about Sneaky, honestly. I don't get to see all the chat stuff that you guys see.
Okay, so I have a Last Story signed by Sakaguchi, and I don't remember why.
Vincent says part of Schreier's article says that a different free-to-play Call of Duty is launching in 2023. So it's not Warzone. Why would you launch another free-to-play Call of Duty?
I don't know. That has to have already been in the works, though. So
why would you do that? Why would you splinter your Warzone audience?
I don't know.
That makes no sense. Okay, but it's
I guess
Schreier's
it's the only thing you're
usually
releasing.
Right, so something in there. Okay, all right. That's it for that topic. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about the Uncharted movie because, Matt, you went to see it. I did not.
No?
No, I have not seen it. The movie is... Don't. Well, that's why we're here. We want to hear from you what you think of it.
I guess when it comes to streaming, I can't stop you. But
it has done $100 million
very well
worldwide.
Yeah. Very well overseas. Yeah.
Did it do better overseas than here?
I think, yeah. Overall.
Was it like 44 million here? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it did well here, but it did way better proportionally overseas.
Yep. Well, I'm going to just fire off
a
copyright strike here. I never understand why these studios will give you copyright strikes and they're not real strikes. Like they don't count towards your 3 and you're out, but they keep you from monetizing your video on YouTube. It's like we're talking about your film or your TV show. We're basically marketing for you for free.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, Warner Brothers put a strike out on their own channel. Like they don't know what they're doing.
It is bizarre. But you went to see it. So what did you think, Matt?
It was terrible.
It was that bad?
It's just awful. Like
really?
It really is bad. I was ready for it to be kind of fun, mediocre. No, it was real bad.
Like
it was
that bad.
It was very soulless filmmaking in a way that I was not really prepared for.
Because that's the antithesis of Uncharted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So also, and I had to explain this to some of the friends I saw. So first off, we saw it. The hit thing is interesting to me though because we saw it at the Chinese theater on Friday night, and it was us, which was 7 of us, and there were 7 other people in the theater. Like the Chinese theater had 14 people. And when we got there, the lobby was literally empty except for the employees, and we're like, "Are we supposed to be here? Like, what the hell?"
Here's the
so nobody wanted to go to Hollywood on Friday night to see this movie. Whereas if it was a Marvel movie or a DC movie, it would be full.
Sony Film CEOs called it, quote, new hit movie franchise.
I mean, it is a new hit movie, though I'm sure they'll get another one. I mean, here's another thing for you. The post-credit scene is in the trailer because Sony marketing is garbage.
Oh my God.
Sony's trailers for their movies since Men in Black 1 have been coming to the theaters near you the following plot.
Oh my gosh,
the post-credit scene is about 35 seconds long, and half of it is in the trailer.
Most of the trailer looks like it's all been shot on green screen.
The whole movie is green screen.
That's what it looks like.
There's very little. It's not very convincing either. But there's things like there are a bunch of things in it you recognize from the games, like that scene, the scene with the plane
climbing
thing.
up the cargo.
That's the opening scene.
Oh, it is.
Like it start
off with a bang.
Yeah, it starts out with like all the Uncharted. It pans down and his ring is floating upside down, and he realizes you're flying through the air, and he's like, "Oh crap!" And like that's it's the traditional Uncharted. We start with him in the middle of this crazy thing. It's like I wonder how, and then it flashes
get out
back
of that.
and explain how you get there. To its credit, it does actually have a reason why that's happening. That's it helps to have known where he was when you're doing so. Like it's not completely inept in that regard. The problem is that like first is an origin story. Who cares? There are no stakes.
The origin of who?
Nate.
Okay.
So it's how he started becoming an adventurer.
Okay.
Because when the movie starts, he's a bartender in New York, being charming so he can steal women's bracelets and sell them. And then Mark Wahlberg shows up and is like, "Hey, kid."
Sully.
Yeah. We'll just call him Mark Wahlberg because he's not Sully. He's not Sully. Like he's not.
Oh, really?
Like,
he can't sell it.
He's not the character. Like no.
Okay.
I mean, I guess he's a grifting thief, which is but he's not Sully.
Yeah.
Like the character is not there. It's just Mark Wahlberg.
Being Mark
Wahlberg as a grifter thief, basically. Chloe is recognizable more or less as Chloe, but here, I mean, really, maybe this is part of a problem with like Uncharted in general, but it's like the gist of it is like, because one of the reasons there's no interesting stakes is like there's no reason they need to get the treasure, like other than everybody wants the treasure. It's like, which of these horrible people is going to be rich? That's it. Like usually the games have some sort of thing where it's like, oh, if this gets out, thousands of people are going to die. Like, because that's the other thing is like the game. That's one of the reasons the games always sort of end up leaning into the supernatural somehow. Is like there's a sort of forbidden knowledge that can't get out, or like it's going to be really bad, or the bad guy who's in charge of it is going to be, irresponsible with it or whatever. Right. There's none of that in this. Like there's no supernatural angle at all. There's no element of that at all.
Huh.
There's a lot of improbable things, but there are no supernatural things. And the course of the game, the course of the movie is just very, very simple National Treasure style puzzles in the vein of sort of like, only Nathan Drake can figure this out for us. It's like children could figure that out for you. Like
it's not a grand adventure like.
I mean, they're looking for for Magellan's Gold.
Hopping and everything.
Yeah, they go around. I mean, they go to like a couple places. There's like the plane going over the map, like in Indiana Jones. But it's like there's nothing exotic about the locations. They're just green screen places and maybe a couple on location things in I think Spain or something.
Because they said the budget was $120 million.
Well, yeah,
that seems like a lot for
CG's
green screen
cheap.
and CG.
No, it's about what CG costs.
Really?
I mean, yeah, that's right. And it's just like, and I was trying to kind of get to the heart of it with like after we finished the movie, and I was like part of the problem is like, why make an Uncharted movie? Because like Uncharted as a game series is based on adventure movies. Like the whole point of Uncharted,
based on Indiana Jones,
right.
Basically.
The whole point of an adventure of the Uncharted games is basically like, what if we did an Indiana Jones game but with the production values of a movie?
Right.
And it doesn't make sense to take that in reverse because we already have Indiana Jones movies. We already have National Treasure. We already have The Mummy. We already have like Uncharted is duplicating a genre of film that has been around since silent movies. And all of them did it better than Uncharted most of the time. And they definitely did it better than Uncharted the movie, which is like a copy of a copy of a copy.
But they've all kind of gone away at this point, haven't they? Like those franchises are all kind of dead.
Somewhat, but the closest comparison to modern franchises here is Mission Impossible. And Mission Impossible is partly interesting because you're waiting to see if Tom Cruise dies this time.
Yeah.
Because all that shit really happened. He does all this stuff in Mission Impossible generally is done in camera.
Yeah.
Like they do all those stunts. They do nothing like that is in this movie. It's all computer graphics. There's no sense of verisimilitude. There's no sense of place. There's no sense of any of it. There's like one parkour chase that looks like it was probably done on the roofs of Barcelona or somewhere equivalent of Barcelona that works out okay, and you get to see Tom Holland do some athletic stuff, but that's about it. Other than that, it all feels very shot in someone's living room, and that's a shame because that's not what Uncharted should be like.
Did you make it to the end of the film?
Oh yeah, I mean we paid for we're sitting in a theater. We're gonna make.
I've walked out about movies before.
I've never walked out of a movie. I wanted to walk out of The Spirit, and I wanted to walk out of Flirting with Disaster, and I fell asleep during Prince of Persia. But that's about it. But I've never walked out of a movie.
Would you recommend that fans of the franchise go and check it out? What if they can get a matinee for like $4 or whatever?
I guess, but like you just wait and watch it on streaming.
Yeah. Or HBO or whatever.
It's just there's also the other problem is like, okay, this is me here. Let me get into my specific problems. So this is an origin story, and part of the price of telling an origin story of Uncharted nowadays is you have to retcon Sam fucking Drake into the whole fucking thing. And so the whole origin is they were orphans together, and Sam had to leave because they were going to rest. And so the whole thing is focused around Sam Drake. And
they had no chance.
I was just like, fuck you. I mean, look, Sam's better in this. He's just a kid who he's writing postcards to Nathan. It turns out to be like a puzzle thing for him, but like. the fact that they're retconning, because like that was one of the things that, you know, when you meet Nate Drake in Uncharted 1, he is fully formed. You know who he is. You get the idea. He doesn't need Sam to give him any kind of like pathos or anything like that. Yeah. Like I hate what Uncharted 4 did to Nathan Drake. We've been over this a number of times. Yeah. And it's because it's the version of Uncharted that Neil Druckmann basically forced into existence, whereas the version of Uncharted that existed in 1 through 3 didn't need any of that. You don't need familial ties because you already have an interesting character in Nathan Drake, and you have his journey from being an ethicless thief to being someone who has found, you know, real connection in the world. And then it's like, oh, he actually really always had good connection, but he had his brother, but that's why I couldn't trust him. He was like, fuck you. He just wanted to work with Troy Baker again. So there's a bunch of that going on, and it's just it turns into a cliche. That's the problem. One of the problems I have with Sam Drake is it turns the whole situation into a cliche. Yeah. And you've already got enough cliches in Uncharted without dragging in the wayward older brother.
The whole IP is a cliche.
Of course. Yeah. But so you don't need to bring in another one. The other thing that I didn't like is that Neil Druckmann gets credit in the main credit things, and you got to wait till the special thanks to see Amy Hennig's name, and you can go fuck yourself for that one. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, granted, the characters she created are not really these characters that are on the screen.
They're not really Neil Druckmann's characters either.
She created Uncharted.
Yeah.
But wow. It's a business reality. You know, Neil's running Naughty Dog. She's not there anymore. I get it. But she created. It's like not having Stan Lee somewhere. Also, there is a Nolan North cameo that is the most awkward, stupid thing I have. It just stops the movie to do a game in joke, and like everyone's like, who didn't play the games is like, what the hell was that? Like, it's real awkward.
Like, who the hell is that? Right?
And there's a couple times when like slowly he gets his original outfit on over the course of the third act, and like he finally puts the gun belt on or the gun holster on, and they play the Nate Drake theme, like, and it's just like, oh, and Emma's like, so I guess that's important that he put a holster on. The people that didn't play the game were so lost. Yeah. Like there's like what, and it made it doubly. and the one guy I was with was like, oh, I knew that was a game reference because they also played that theme earlier when you saw the voice actor. They play a little version of the Nate Drake theme, and I'm like, so it's like you blew the theme to begin with because you wanted to drive home that was Nolan North. It's just a mess.
So would you say the 40 Rotten Tomato score is good?
About on target.
It's accurate.
Yeah. Pretty on target.
Have you noticed the fan score is like 80?
Yeah, but that's all self-selected. You can't, and it can be spam, so it doesn't matter. I don't care what the audience score says on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't care what the.
So you don't think hardcore Uncharted fans will like it either, then?
No, I don't. I mean, if your standards are real low, I guess. But like, if you want a good, if you want a good movie, like I get, you're not going to get it here. Yeah. If you just want to watch Tom Holland sort of act like Nathan Drake for 2 hours, I guess. The teaser at the end basically sets up the story of the first game, like looking for Drake's coffin and gold and everything. So maybe a second one would have a little more to it. But like, I don't know. Like, I probably won't see that in the theater.
It's not that you're not a fan. So.
No, I like Uncharted. But like, there is no way in hell this movie is 2 movies what Uncharted 2 is 2 games.
Okay. That's, I think, something we can all resonate with.
Whether you love or hate Uncharted, you at least have to admit like how it was sort of its own thing and a unique thing and influenced a lot of stuff. And the Uncharted movie is a completely disposable B-list film at best.
All right. We'll close
and clearly we're going to get a lot more. But also, I do very firmly believe that this is maybe the dumbest... IP Sony has you could adapt to a movie first in terms of interest. In terms of actually making the movie, it's probably a smart thing because it's like the one with no.
It seems like it would make sense.
It has no supernatural elements. It has no special, science fiction things. What would be like my choice to adapt this? Probably Horizon. I think Horizon would be a really good movie.
That would be a good sci-fi film.
That's probably a $200 million movie.
I mean, I think The Last of Us.
I mean, they're doing The Last of Us as the TV series.
Yeah.
So
but I think that's the bell cow.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of other stuff you could, they already tried Ratchet and Clank. That didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
You're probably going to stick to live action stuff. But it's like the only thing I could think of that would be, in terms of their really successful stuff, this is probably like bottom of the list, but it's also the simplest, I would say. Obviously it would be a worse idea to do Days Gone, but they were never going to do a Days Gone movie. It's just The Walking Dead all over again.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a waste of time. like if it comes up on streaming at some point, you could do probably worse than to watch it while drunk or something or stoned. Like
as you're passing out.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm not saying like go ahead and experience it for yourself when you can get around to seeing it for something you're already paying for. I guess. But I would definitely not take time out of your day to go see it in the theater. Clearly, a bunch of people have already, so don't listen to maybe don't want to. But I did not find it particularly compelling filmmaking.
Okay, chat. If any of you guys went to see it and you want to share your impressions of it, hold them until we do Q&A at the end, because we need to move on to the last topic because we're running out of time right now. And that last topic is Cyberpunk 2077. And Matt, I do believe that this will be the last time we ever discuss this game on GameFace, other than as a tertiary comparison to something.
Until Cyberpunk 2078 gets announced.
This is kind of the final update.
I will be shocked if they ever touch this again.
Yeah, me too. This is kind of the final update. It was released for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, I believe.
Very suddenly.
And it was very suddenly. And it does have a free upgrade option. I only had the PS4 version of it. I just went to the PlayStation Store. Free upgrade to PS5 was there. I will say this, the new version of it is like 70 gigs, and the old one was like 95, so they've managed to crunch it down some more. I'm assuming using Kraken technology or whatever. So it is smaller than it was before. So what I ended up doing was I just completely deleted the PlayStation 4 version off of my console and then just started new with the PlayStation 5 download. And I will say this, the game now looks like what I thought it was going to be before I played it the first time.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, I'm playing it on the Series X. I had it completely uninstalled, so I just reinstalled the whole thing on the internal this time. Yeah, they fixed the HDR.
It actually, I get the little logo popping up.
Yeah, it looks
when the game starts.
Looks really good. Like I was impressed just driving around at night. Like it looked like what I was expecting it to look like.
By the way, this B-roll is of the PS5 version. I just captured this from the new.
It's definitely a richer visual experience for sure. And again, I mean, I hadn't played it in forever. I looked at my save, and the last time I played it was December 30th, 2020.
Yeah.
And
mine was like November, I think.
And of course they've reset all the perks so that you got all your perk points back, and I'm just like, I don't know what any of this does anymore.
I have no clue. And also when I started it, just mission objective.
Just endless mission stuff.
Ding, ding, ding,
and they added some interesting.
It did show me that they've added a lot to the game.
They've added a bunch of like little things. They've added apartments you can buy. You can modify stuff. And they added a bunch of new contacts, and the contacts have like a set number of missions you do for them, and then you get special stuff, which I like, because that's like an open world goal. You give me goals to do in the open world, and like some of that I'd already done some, but I went around doing that without ignoring, because like one of my problem here was like I didn't remember what I was doing. I didn't remember how to play the game. Like,
I had finished the game already, so I just loaded up like an old save and just started fiddling around in the open world.
I mean, I spent a lot of time just walking around the city. Like I think I said it when the game came out even, but like this is one of the most believable places in games ever to me.
It's even better now.
Now I just walk around the buildings and look at people. You know, now there's all these different looking people. Like they've definitely added variety and like what the pedestrians look like. The other thing I really appreciate is one of the few open world games I've played where the people in the city have different body types.
Yep.
Like there's thin people and short people and fat people and tall people. Like there's a bunch of different people walking around. It looks like a street you'd see. It
seems like there's more people on the streets now than there was before.
And it runs
feels
smoother.
Way more alive than it was before.
Oh yeah, much more.
And just the world feels, I don't even know how to really verbalize it. It just feels more solid. Like things aren't like jittery and feeling like they're just barely holding together.
Even the combat. So eventually I did realize that I was mostly a sword fighter. So I put my perks back into that. And like even like fighting guys close up, like that all feels much more, you know, you'd hit them and they'd go crazy and flip over and stuff. But now it's like, now you can hit them and their head comes off and they're, if they fall over right, more or less. Like there were a couple times I hit a guy and he just flew like 40 yards. But also, I'm very strong.
I don't mind. I don't mind that every once in a while.
No,
sometimes little glitches like that can be fun.
The driving is better. Like they definitely improved the handling on the cars.
It felt the same to me, like GTA.
No, it's definitely different.
Really?
Oh, for sure.
It's not.
I wouldn't call it good. Yeah. But it's definitely better.
It has that same thing that GTA has, where you have to let off the gas when you go around corners and hit the brake, or you're gonna just slide off the road. Like the cars never turn as tight as you think they're going to.
It depends on I have this Mad Max car that takes turns real well.
Oh, okay.
And like one of
but you can see what I'm driving here.
Yeah, that thing
I'm
is
driving
not.
a
Yeah,
hoopty.
you can't. That's for sitting outside the Mark's house and like observing when their wife comes home. That's not for car chases.
Yeah. I just grabbed the first car that was outside, like, because I've already finished the game. I knew I wasn't gonna like play it again. I just wanted to like just spend some time in the city and see what it was.
Well, once
like.
I remembered that I could summon my cars, I'm like, oh right, I had this really cool Mad Max car that could corner on a dime.
Yeah.
But it's definitely improved. Like
vastly,
it's a whole different game. I mean, it's still not great, but it's like.
I honestly liked Cyberpunk 2077 a lot. Like,
I liked it. I will still not say a lot. Like when you say compare it to Horizon Forbidden West, I'm just going to laugh. Like it's not in the same league, but it is maybe one league down.
I don't know if I would say it's not in the same league.
I just don't find it as interesting to play. Like the story,
I would prefer to play Forbidden West, but this game has its charms. I feel
it does, but it's less than the sum of its parts to me still. And it's
still a disappointment compared to what I thought it was going to be at one point in my life.
Yeah.
Where I thought it was going to be like the game of the forever.
Yeah, but even with like distance from that, like playing it again, like, because I played it like for like most of a day. Like, I guess most of like basically last week when I came home from the show, because I found out during the show. So I installed that and I played it like most of that night and like the next morning and like and then I got another code for something else and I'm like, I don't need to play this anymore. But like,
sayonara, sucker.
Like I don't dislike it, but I do feel it's just sort of middle of the road, more or less. And like certainly the storytelling is certainly the presentational storytelling is head and shoulders above most stuff. I just don't find the story particularly compelling. And I feel like it's missing.
Oh, I think there were moments in this that were great, man.
There, but like
there's a couple moments that crushed me in this game.
I didn't care about anybody enough for that.
Really, Jackie, you didn't care about that whole thing?
Not really. I mean, I would have. I am eternally going to wish I could have played the game where they did not skip the first year of your life in Night City into a montage, because I feel like I needed to go on some more adventures with Jackie to really bond with.
I mean, that's the funny part, though. That to me, that character was so strong that the limited amount of time that I did spend with him, I don't want to spoil the game because a lot of people are just now starting to play.
I didn't feel that, but like I do think that.
I think maybe I said too much already.
I think everybody knows what happens.
Really?
There. It's very famous in terms of anyone who's following that. But like I do think that the game needed more Jackie. I didn't care about what happened to Jackie really, but I do think he was a good presence and a good foil for V.
I thought he was a great character.
And like he was a good way to learn more about the world without it feeling artificial.
Yeah.
And like
he was the tutorial basically.
Pretty much, yeah. But I just would have liked more Jackie.
Yeah, I can get that. He was a great character, I thought.
And outside of Jackie, like the other characters that I like are very. Like I like that Ripper Doc that you first start with, whose name I can't remember. I like that one. I think it's Nyx or something. The hacker girl that you meet in the club, who like you bring stuff back to her once in a while, and she like figures things out for you.
Yep.
But like all those characters are people you go back to briefly, as opposed to people that are kind of companions on the journey. It's a very solo game in that regard.
Yeah, that's true.
It's fine. Just every encounter is pretty much the same. Like like what you're doing right here could be literally any side quest in the entire game. Like
you just show when people are shooting.
There's just
stuff.
No. What are you aiming at?
They're shooting at a car. It's target practice or whatever. Yeah.
But it's just, you go too near someone and they all attack you for no good reason.
That's what happens right here. I just pull my gun out and that's it. They're like, oh, he has his gun out.
Whereas, like, I can tell you like stories about the side quests in Forbidden West that I'm just like, that really got into things like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm saying they're like, I'm not saying everything's like poignant fucking Best Picture stuff, but like there's more to do. There's more different things to do, and I just felt Cyberpunk was the same thing over and over again, and I hold them to a certain standard because The Witcher 3 is not that.
Yeah. I think we can both say at this point, though, if people ever had interest in playing this, they're good to go now.
Yeah, now is the time to play it if you've been holding off, for sure.
And some people have, like AJ the Legend Watson. He's been waiting to play this game. He's had it since launch, and he has not played it. He's been waiting until basically we gave him the go-ahead, and we're giving it to you now.
Yeah.
You're
also,
good to go.
like, I know it was an impossible thing to do because the game was designed the way it was designed. Why is it first person? Like, I didn't mind it was first person, but the more I played it now, I'm just like, I'd really like to be able to see my character.
It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't super bother me, but I don't understand whether the fact that I can
provide the option.
The fact that I can drive in third person, but I can't walk in third person is weird.
It's weird. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like, commit to something.
Yeah, I hear you. But anyway, if you've been waiting all this time to play Cyberpunk 2077, this is as good as it gets, people. This is
I don't think that. I mean,
this is endgame. There might be some more DLC.
Yeah, maybe one little like patch of whatever hot fixes happen with like the next gen patch in like a week or so. But like, this is it's certainly. It's certainly to the point where you will be able to judge it for its game and not for its tech.
Its bugs or whatever. Yeah. And a weird time to release it too. Like
just I don't know.
Let's put it out right in between Horizon and Elden Ring.
Yeah, I mean it was ready when it was ready, I guess. They said Q1.
I mean, they've probably just written it off at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just get it done.
Yeah.
It came out the same week as like the latest like No Man's Sky patch.
It doesn't. I mean, all these big competitors to Cyberpunk all came out at once.
I think they just don't ever want to talk about it again.
Yeah.
And they got because I bet there's going to be all kinds of fanfare for the Witcher 3 next gen patch in Q2.
Well, they're probably just really sick of working on the game.
I would think so. Yeah.
Those people have to be like, I don't want to touch this ever again.
Yeah, it's one thing if you're doing DLC for 2 years, but it's another thing if you're just trying to fix
the game that launched already.
After you spent all this time telling your bosses that this was not going to work.
Yep, and then they launch it anyway, and then you're fixing the problems that your boss created.
After everybody got called out for it. I mean, there cannot be a lot of positive feelings left for that game internally.
It's true. Okay, that's it for GameFace 290. We're going to take some questions from Q&A. As always, go at Sifted Games in the chat to help us pluck the questions out from all the other conversation. Let's head on over and see what people are up to in our awesome chat.
H.A. the Legend Watson asking the real questions. Which do you feel worse about, Shane? Recommendation-wise, the initial hype of Cyberpunk or the suggestion of PSVR?
PSVR, absolutely.
PSVR costs a lot more money. So
a lot more money, and like
and Cyberpunk eventually got fixed.
I mean, there's no way to know that they're going to release a game broken.
No. Like, well, also
they showed us a demo that was awesome, and
also Cyberpunk eventually did get fixed, and PSVR still has nothing to play.
It still makes me sick. So yeah,
that too.
Definitely PlayStation VR, not even close. Yeah. JM Rain, thank you for gifting the Tier 1 subs to everyone in our chat. Again, another reason to show up and watch the show live. We're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. Odin5, thank you for Twitch Prime. I also saw that a lot of you guys did subscribe with Twitch Prime early in the show. I'm sorry that I didn't recognize you guys verbally on the show. I should have, but the intro was going on too long, which also is all my fault. And I just needed to get the show going because I knew we were going to talk a long time about Horizon Forbidden West.
Is there no New Game Plus in Cyberpunk?
I don't believe so.
That's got to be coming.
Maybe.
They talked about that before.
They may just quit. I don't know.
Take a cue from No Man's Sky. Keep putting stuff in until you're done.
Yeah. Vincent, are you interested in the new Lego sports games from 2K, or are you just disappointed you're not getting Midnight Club? Lego sports games, my interest
it's not
close to zero.
I mean, I don't care about Midnight Club either. So.
That was an announcement from today, by the way.
Just give me the Star Wars game, for God's sake.
Minority games. I like Cyberpunk. Should I start a new game or wait for a new game plus? Wait, did you finish it before? Or did you get halfway through it?
Sounds like you finished it. Sounds like you finished it, but he wants to know if you should start a new game now or if he should wait in case they do a new game plus so he can carry over his stuff.
I think you should buy Horizon Forbidden West or Elden Ring. That's what I would suggest instead of playing the same game twice. If you're hurting for cash, I would wait for new game plus. Yeah. Although playing it again with everything fixed might have its charms, but probably not enough. One Super Master Gamer, do you think Big Sight should take advertisement money from games they are reviewing, covering? Ooh.
That's a fine question.
Look, I've been a part of that. I worked at Game Trailers, and we had tons of ads for games.
Yeah. I will say this. I do write like marketing stuff for game stuff sometimes, and I will say that the people who do that part in those big sites are completely unrelated to the editorial side.
Yeah.
Like no one who does the advertisement stuff is ever touching the reviews or saying anything about the reviews. That is simply not happening.
I don't think they're insinuating that like editors are working on marketing materials, but I think they're worried.
I mean, I don't know what else you can be implying by saying take advertisement money from the games they're reviewing.
Well, he's implying that the editors may just look at the ads running on the site and be like, those people are paying our bills, blah, blah, blah.
Knowing a lot of those people, I guarantee you they do not do that.
Yeah.
They are all, either have too much integrity for that, or B, think too highly of themselves for that.
Yeah. And I mean,
Also, most of the people who work for those big sites
fail-safes.
are aware that they work for giant corporate entities who are not their friends. So why would they want to kowtow to someone that's making a company money that's not making them money?
I would argue the bigger risk with editorial today, and even back when I worked at Game Trailers, isn't that people are like, oh, they're spending lots of money on our website, I'm going to give that game a good review. It's that I want to work at that company.
Yes.
And I know the PR person there, and I know a couple marketing people there, and they know that I'm reviewing this game, and that to me is the bigger problem.
That is probably the closest you'd get to that kind of concern.
I've said this before, various places, that a lot of people get into doing what Matt and I are doing right now, not because they love journalism or they love creating content or they went to school for what they're planning to do.
They're like yelling about video games.
Yeah, they're using it as
here.
a stepping stone to get the job that they really want, which is working at Nintendo or working at Xbox.
Also, to be fair, when we got into that, that wasn't a thing.
Right.
So,
we did this a long time before
that started to happen.
Journalists started making that jump. And once, what was the guy's name from IGN that became the community manager for Halo at Bungie?
Oh,
he was the first.
The
first high-profile editor.
And like Casamassina.
He went to like Apple though. Matt did.
He went to Nintendo briefly, I thought.
No.
Did he do something like that?
He didn't. Which is surprising. If there was one editor,
he ran that Nintendo thing into the ground.
But anyway, he was the guy, I think he worked for IGN. He may have even worked for IGN PlayStation or whatever. Went to Bungie. And that's when the light bulbs went off for all the editors. And they're like,
I can't remember who that was.
I can be an employee at IGN and I can get a job at a game developer.
Yeah, well, I remember starting to see like people who were interns and lower end producers at G4 suddenly started getting development positions. I'm like, wait a minute, you can do that?
I'm not going to name any names, but yeah, there's a couple people that we both used to work with that are now working in development. And
to be fair, most of them have done really well.
They have, yeah. And look, I don't want to begrudge people.
Like they were good picks
for getting their dream job and finding a pathway to their dream job through what we do. It's, they just want to do what they have a passion for, and they want to work for Nintendo or whatever company that.
As for me, I never wanted to work in game development because it seemed like hell.
Me either. So it's never even been an option for me. And, I went to school for this, and my path was always to do this. I never had this idea that I was going to work at some gaming company or whatever. It was never something that I wanted to do. But to me, that's the bigger danger, is the editor who wants a job, is pining for a job at one of these companies, and they're reviewing their games. And look, when you review a game for a publisher, you are in touch with them. So PR, they send you an email with your review code, and they have instructions there. If you have any problems, if you get stuck, if you have any questions, just reach out to me. And sometimes those emails will even have email addresses to people who are actually developers, or sometimes the PR person becomes the middleman between you and actually someone who works on the game, because the PR person can't figure out how to solve your problem, so they go straight to the source, and you end up talking to a developer. So that, to me, is the bigger danger, not a bunch of ads running on a gaming website. Let's see if we can take a couple more. What time is it? Ooh, take one more. That was a good question, though, Supermaster Gamer. Kevin Roth, have you found a new studio? No, not yet. Still looking. Ashes in the Hourglass. Shane, are you interested in bringing back Name That Game just without the rewards? Yeah, I'm interested in bringing it back, period. But I want it to be with rewards, and I'm also thinking about tweaking it so that the clues aren't just me saying a clue. Other ways to give you guys clues. That's all I'm going to say. But it's not going away. It's coming back, I promise. One more. The Champ 2105, first time chat from a viewer. Welcome aboard, man. Thank you for stopping by and watching the show live for the first time. And the Champ, you've been, I believe, I've recognized the name. I think you've been a subscriber to Sifted from the beginning. But anyway, welcome. Glad that you finally decided to speak up in our chat. And he says, I'm watching first time live. I'm usually waking up and going to work. I don't know if you covered it, but did you hear that Square is disappointed with Guardians of the Galaxy? Thoughts on it? Not shocked at all.
No, Square has very unrealistic expectations for things a lot of
That's
time.
the best way to put it. Square's expectations for sales of its games are completely
going
bonkers.
Back to that Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, the Tomb Raider reboot.
I think we may have said, Matt,
Yeah,
when
I think we said that at the time, for sure. There was no way it was going to sell enough to make Square happy no
and
matter
Square
what.
was going to say something crazy about it.
And sure enough,
here it is today. When the sales finally come in and they know what they're getting out of the game, they say it's not good enough. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. Elden Ring.
You know what I'm disappointed by? Avengers.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I know which one you should double down on.
Guardians of the Galaxy was great. I thought it was an excellent game. Also, you guys are probably wondering, hey, why aren't we talking about Elden Ring? The Elden Ring embargo is up tomorrow. So we couldn't talk about it on today's show. Matt and I are both playing it, though. And it's a good thing we jumped on it early because it is not easy. And that's all I'm going to say about it because otherwise I'll get in trouble. Both Matt and I are both playing it. We should have in-depth observations of that game next Tuesday, just like we went over hardcore for Horizon Forbidden West today. So have that to look forward to next Tuesday. And with that, I think we got to close the show. We are at time, and it is bittersweet to say goodbye to our studio here. It has been short, but it's been the best studio that we've ever had.
Man, when did we come here?
It was August.
Was it August?
July or August? Yeah, around there.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So we've been here for quite a while now, but I'm going to miss this view.
That's right, because the lease ended in like June of the old place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The show just felt more organic for some reason.
Certainly more carbon-based.
Yeah. Being able to look outside for me, I don't know, I'd come in here before we'd shoot, and it would just kind of change my whole attitude towards the show every time. And it sucks. Like, the people that we work here with are awesome. They're really cool people. And they welcomed us with open arms, even though our business is a lot different than a lot of the businesses here.
And louder.
They put up with our swearing and our... It's funny. Like, we've had conversations with people at the door where they've listened to the show and made comments about, like, what we've talked about.
Yeah.
There's some gamers in here. You've seen, some people putting their heads up over here. Like, you see their heads poke over the top. That's because they're, like, fans. Like, they like games and they're, like, listening to the show.
And they want to know how to pronounce Arceus.
Yeah, they did. Well, they told us how to pronounce Arceus, right? Yeah. So it really sucks to have to leave here, especially knowing that they're just going to demolish this place. Like, I can't believe you would just demolish a building this nice, but that's money. So, yeah, I don't know where we're going to be next Tuesday. We'll figure it out. I have 7 days to do that. I also have to move all the stuff out of here and get some of it into storage. It's going to be a really crappy week. But I just want to thank you guys for being along for the journey while we've been here in the studio. Hope you guys enjoyed it for the brief amount of time that we actually had it. And we will be back next Tuesday. Come hell or high water, there will be a show. Even if we have to do it on Zoom, there will be a show next week. We got to talk about Elden Ring. Also, I'm probably going to do a stream with Elden Ring. I'm probably going to do Shane versus Elden Ring. And I know. It'll probably be like just one night a week for a couple hours. It may take me 5 years to get through the game at that rate, but I think it'll be entertaining for you guys. And I'm going to go in with a positive attitude, and I'm going to go in with the idea that you guys are going to help me get through it. So I'm going to lean on you guys to do this. So don't, like, I've talked about this before, like, don't badger me or make fun of me. Let's make it a community thing where you guys try to help me get through the game.
All right, but you got to listen.
Okay, I will listen. Absolutely. So anyway, that's something to look forward to. And look, it's okay if you want to laugh at me. Like, I'm not that sensitive about it. It's just whenever I start doing this, it feels like everyone is there to just make fun of me. And they're not there to help.
That's because, like, who was it, Jeff Green, who did those? It was just him failing at games. And
I don't know.
He that was a whole thing, but, like, he, like, did Dark Souls stuff, and it was just sort of like watch Jeff Green flounder through Dark, and that's basically what that was people like mocking him relentlessly while he failed to get through Dark Souls.
Yeah,
and I think he did like all 3 games in Bloodborne in the end. Like, but, I mean, look, if you find a gimmick and it works, just go, lean into it. But I think that's just sort of like what people are primed to do.
Yeah,
with
my goal in this is not to create some gigantic Twitch streaming audience that watches me do this. My goal in this is to learn how to appreciate these games. That's what I want to do. And obviously, fans of these games are going to be the best conduit for me to do that. So just keep that in mind before you watch a stream. It's not about coming and heckling me, although I'm sure some of you will. And I'm fine with dealing with some of that. I just don't want that to be the whole crux of the streams because I'll stop doing them. That's all there is to it. So just want to lay the groundwork before we get started on those. But those should be coming pretty soon. It might be like Saturday night or something like that. If you have any suggestions for when I should do it, let me know. And I'll take those into consideration. But yeah, I guess that's it from this studio. How many of these have we done now? 3?
Oh, moving?
Yeah, where we were like, goodbye, studio. This is the third one where we had to say goodbye.
Yeah. We barely even did anything in that second one.
And people may wonder, they may sit there and they're like, why does Sifted keep moving locations? It's because we don't make enough money. Like, I have a very thin budget to pay for a location.
Also, like, you can't help it if they sell the building out for you twice.
And that's happened twice. Yeah. But it's like, I probably could have found a building that was newer or nicer that wouldn't have been sold or been taken down if I could afford an office in those
But also,
buildings.
like, the market for commercial and residential in this city is insane right now. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah. That's why I can't tell you that I have a studio right now, because I can't find one that I can afford right now. So
I've seen some rents for some like tiny little like $3,000 a month for a 570 square foot 1 bedroom, and I'm just like, what are you on? Like,
what planet are we on? I know it's
like
nuts.
in areas of the city that I probably wouldn't want to walk in.
I know.
You know, like it's just ridiculous, and a lot of it's landlords trying to make up revenue they're losing from being unable to evict people who can't pay their rent.
Yep. So anyway, I'm hoping some of the new stuff that we're doing is going to help generate some more revenue at our Patreon. If you want to support us, please do. Head to patreon.com/sifted. Our Patreon has been at its lowest point now for like weeks and weeks and weeks. So every person makes a difference. But unfortunately, it's like we can't do big things without revenue. And that's where we get it from. So if you like the show and you want to see it continue, again, patreon.com/sifted. You can pledge $1 or $1 billion, whatever you want per month. It'll be a huge help to us as well. If you're watching the show on YouTube, head down to the description below and at least subscribe with Twitch Prime. The instructions are down there. After you've linked your accounts, it's literally 2 clicks. I know it's a pain in the ass to remember to do it every month, but that's why we remind you here on GameFace and on Pactor Factor. But anyway, it's going to be a big surprise what happens with the show next Tuesday. I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks to everyone who supports us. Really appreciate it. We'll see you in our new destination soon. GameFace is up and out.